Top O the morning.
It's 2 p.m.
It is.
It still feels.
I don't know
morning.
what time it is when they're listening, Marty.
They're only allowed to listen at 2 p.m. So if it's not 2 p.m., please wait until
Stop
tomorrow.
until tomorrow. Yes. This is Podcast Unlocked, the world's #1 Xbox podcast here at IGN. I'm Ryan McCaffrey, the returning hero.
I came back. The hero.
Yeah.
Oh, I did
Global
heroic
traveler.
deeds.
Yeah. Marty Sleva. We don't have to know where you've been or what you've been doing, but you've been gone a long time, my friend. I literally haven't seen you since before Christmas.
Yeah, I was gone. I was in Wisconsin for 2 weeks. I covered CES in Vegas.
Yeah,
did a secret
CES also in Wisconsin
project. CES also in Wisconsin. Secret project last week that you'll find out about in a little bit. Then finally came back, and then it's kind of weird how you don't see Mitch and I in the same room ever.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like you
something onto there.
Just are the same guy.
Yeah, it's the whole white thing. White guys with glasses.
Because I'm Marty Sleva.
That's
how
a
it
Mitch
goes,
voice.
right?
Yeah. I'm glad to be back.
Sean Finnegan, good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you guys as well.
In front of the camera this week.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of becoming a regular occurrence from time to time now.
Because they send us off to so many freaking places.
Marty's gone for a month. Mitch is gone now.
You're pinch hitting off the bench right now.
There you go. Nailed it.
As long as I'm contributing to the team, I'm all right with that.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, let's start right there, actually.
Sure.
So there's a lot going on this week,
Yeah.
first of all. We have the Halo 5 beta just ended.
Mm-hmm.
We just got the release date cemented for the spring first-party lineup for Xbox One. We had the Windows 10 event today as we recorded.
That was a lot of event.
Yeah. There was a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
Not so much on the Xbox side, but still interesting things.
Yep.
And then the other one was Undead Labs CEO Jeff Strain. That's the State of Decay development team. He came by here the other day and recorded a 50-minute interview.
Whoa.
We talked for a long time. Hopefully you guys will like it and want to hang in there for the whole thing.
Is this like a double episode?
Well, it's going to be, this will probably be one of the longest episodes we've ever done.
What?
Just by virtue of that.
We'll call it a special episode.
Yeah, director's cut.
Yeah.
That's right. The word, there's just no regard given to content or editing. Like, just throw it all out there.
Might as well go in there.
But yeah, so I talked to Jeff about, we start at the beginning with him and work our way up to State of Decay and then the future. Mm-hmm. Turned out when I was researching for the interview, he worked at Blizzard and did some majorly significant things at Blizzard.
Moly.
So he's got an interesting
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't
past.
sure where he came from, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to this episode.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And we got it on video, too. So it should be, if you're watching our new 2015, our New Year's resolution was full video episodes, simultaneous with the audio episodes.
Yeah.
That Jeff Strain interview will be spliced right in. You'll never know it wasn't live, except for the fact that these two guys
will literally disappear, and you'll be wearing different clothing.
Oh, that's like,
and for the fact that this whole discussion is happening right here, letting them know.
Well, people are listening right now.
Oh crap!
And they're watching.
We should be using a different tense. I'm really excited for your interview with him.
Sometimes we do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got to play the
for the time travel
acting.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, Finnegan, I want to start with you as you guzzled down some throat fuel, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
That is not the way I'm ever going to put it.
The Halo 5 beta came to a just tearful end on Sunday.
Yeah.
During a 3-day weekend! Let it go till Monday!
Yeah.
Come on, I could have played one more night!
Yeah.
But no, what did you think, man? You and I played a lot.
We did. I put in 25 hours. Like I was telling you before the show, I put a good run in there like that very last day. I played for, 8 hours or so. I made my way up to about midway through Onyx.
Yeah.
I loved the beta. I had a great time playing it. In fact, I don't know what I'm going to do in the months to come in terms of my multiplayer shooters.
What will I do with myself?
Yeah, seriously. Like,
there are no other video games.
It was a nice, well, you know me, I'm a big into the shooters, so I always have to have one shooter that I'm playing,
You'll
which
go back
I do.
to Counter-Strike.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been playing a lot of Counter-Strike all the time. But, I like to play things on consoles. I like to have the Xbox One controller in my hand, and I tried to go back to Destiny after the Halo 5
to PvP
beta.
action?
Yeah, played a couple matches, and, man, I could not hold it. I couldn't get into it. It was just too slow.
Yeah.
The Halo 5 beta was awesome. Like, the gameplay is really cool.
What are give me a couple of quick what did you like most? What do you hope gets worked on for final version?
So I definitely wanted to break this out into like an actual feature and talk about
Here's
that
your
stuff,
chance.
yeah, with at length. But first things first, I guess the thing that I would love most about it is the movement and the gameplay. Like it's faster, it's very refined, and the new Spartan abilities literally give you this feeling like you're a super soldier in an awesome piece of tech suit.
Yeah.
You have a lot of really cool things that you can do.
There was
and that changes everything.
Yeah, there was one point I tried it and I messed up somehow, but some guy was chasing me and I remembered, okay, and then I tried to jump. I tried to jump up and then thruster back to land behind him, and I somehow screwed it up. But it's like someday when
Totally
the game comes
possible.
out, I'm gonna pull that off,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be so great.
Yeah.
There's a whole different, if you're good, there's a lot of different things you can do. I've dodged people charging me with swords. Like I've wrapped around really tight corners.
The sword lunge does seem a little too generous, though, in the sense of because there were so many times where I'd have the guy coming at me and I'd olay to the left or right, but he'd kill me anyway.
Right.
And then I'd see on the kill cam, which the kill cam's not like 100% accurate. There'd be a lot of times where it's like, he didn't even shoot me.
Yeah.
But where it just seems like once that animation is started, you're done. I don't know what the technical under the hood thing going on, but it seems like, man, no, I got out of the way of that. I should have had another life to live there.
Certainly.
So
Go.
Oh no, I didn't get I was literally not at home, so I didn't go around my Xbox One, so I didn't get a chance to play this.
You only had 3 weeks, but except the fact that you were
I was
literally gone
for
3
5 weeks.
Yeah.
So you said it's obviously a lot faster than Destiny. Like, is it the pace comparable to like Titanfall or the Advanced Warfare?
Yeah, I would say it is.
Yeah.
Like, in many regards, because specifically of the Spartan abilities and the movement.
The range of
I
mobility.
think Titanfall's. I don't know if it's as fast as Titanfall, just because in Titanfall the movement you're chaining together moves, whereas when you use your thruster in Halo, there's that bit of a cooldown. You can't just like thruster like a
you're not gonna be wall
cocained out
walls,
bee.
But it's not just the thruster,
like
but it's
that?
also the addition of like sprint and stuff too.
Yeah.
That's another thing that increases the pace. Halo is still very much like a control-oriented shooter. Like you can't just run around like balls to the wall and expect to do well. I mean, unless you're really, really good and playing against.
So
really
don't
bad
point
players.
to me, not me.
But in terms of just the actual speed, like you can play Halo at the same speed that you can play Titanfall, I would say.
Right.
You don't because it's not effective, but just the ability to have that like gameplay kind of ramp up speed or play more defensively, like it speeds up and slows down, like that's an awesome variation that we didn't really see before that I liked immensely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Spartan abilities, that thruster pack, and the Spartan charge and the ground pound.
I'm still a little lukewarm on ground pound and Spartan charge. Like I think they're very situational. I did not get a single ground pound kill throughout the whole beta.
Really?
Yeah, not a single
I mean, you're a
kill.
better Halo player
It's
than me.
really
and
hard
I have
to
like
aim.
clips and clips of them.
It's really hard to aim. Like I find myself so the way it works is you have to be at a specific height,
Right.
And you have to aim it on the ground, which you use your right stick.
Same
for.
stick you're clicking in.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have. Is like most times you're trying to hit a moving target on the ground when they're underneath you.
We got to anticipate where they're going to be.
Yeah. Well, you're still pushing it in and aiming at the same time, and
Yeah.
I just suck at it.
Yeah.
I'm just better at shooting people.
Yeah. Man, this 11-month. I mean, I'm assuming if I was a betting man, I'd say Halo 5 is going to come out in November.
Yeah.
Sort of this 11-month lead in terms of the beta is pretty impressive in my mind.
It is.
We're getting a lot of betas this generation that they're called betas, but they almost feel a little.
They're
bit more like
they're demos.
Yeah, and they're very close to release.
Yeah.
I mean, Evolve, for instance, but 11 months. That's. I mean.
Yeah, Evolve
There's
had
a lot
real...
of games we literally don't. I mean, like Call of Duty, we never play 11 months before it comes out because it gets revealed and we go hands-on like 5 months before the game comes out.
Yeah, there's so much to like, and then I would say the weapons. I love the weapons so far in Halo. Now there's so many more weapons we haven't seen.
Sure.
Shotgun, like the shotgun would have changed the dynamic of a lot of those maps.
Totally.
Because the SMG was the punchy short range weapon. And I love that the new SMG. It feels so good. Like if you get a little far away from me, and you've got either a BR or an AR, you're gonna take me down. But man, if I just know when I've got that SMG, if I can get you to within spitting distance, I'm probably going to kill you. And
it's a great like mobility weapon. Like if you're playing strongholds, or if you're flanking a lot, running around a lot, sprinting a lot, like it's a great weapon to have. It's a quick draw. It's actually, I found it to be pretty good at distance as well. I think the beta was really focused on fine-tuning that close game because they weren't sure how the movement was going to work out. And that's kind of, because you basically know what you're getting from a shotgun. You don't have to see it in there. It changes the dynamic, but you know that going in.
Right.
It's fine-tuning. Like, when I first started the beta, I thought the SMG and the assault rifle were a little bit overpowered. But then with BR starts, I was like, oh my gosh, the BR is so strong and the DMR is so strong. Like, now they feel balanced and everything as a package feels really good. The guns, like you pointed out, they nailed them.
Yeah, I will say at first, when they added the Hydra in week 2 on Regret,
I still suck with the Hydra.
It's not that. It's still like, I'm still not sure how I feel about it. But Quinn Del Hoyo, the lead multiplayer designer, posted a video on his Twitter of basically aim up or after you lock on, and you got a smart scope, lock on, and then just tilt it up a little bit, and the rockets will, even if the guy is behind cover, the rocket will arc over and take him out. So that I was having some more success with it after that, but I'm still not sure how I feel about the Hydra. Yeah. The rocket launcher plays fine. I don't like its redesign visually. I don't like the
design either.
It just looks like a generic dumb rocket launcher now, whereas the classic Halo rocket launcher just had a personality. Yeah, it was just like, you just knew it.
I know the word iconic is thrown around a lot these days, but I would say the rocket launcher is nearing that level. That
Spanker
design,
written on the side.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Yeah.
Miss it.
There's definitely a couple times I picked up the rocket launcher and thought that I picked up the wrong weapon because I'm just used to the look of the old one.
Yeah, I could see that. But matchmaking still, I mean, granted, see, here's the problem for 343. Everybody's mad because Master Chief Collection matchmaking still busted.
Still broken.
It's slowly improving, but it's still not there. And now they've got this Halo 5 beta, which is actually a beta. So the matchmaking wasn't super great as far as there were just the wait times were pretty crazy. Like, you couldn't just flow from match to match pretty much
Although
ever.
sometimes you could.
Not often.
There were
not often
spots here and there where I was like getting a couple good matches right in a row without people dropping out.
But they have the legit excuse of, well, it's a beta. It's new, we're figuring. But the problem is, perception-wise, you go from back to back from Master Chief Collection super broken matchmaking to, matchmaking's still not great in this beta. Is 343 going to be able to get their matchmaking act together on this new console? So that's a big question mark heading into the final version at the end of the year, presumably the end of the year.
Do you guys think it's possible that it's not entirely 343's fault? Like, both Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, particularly with this new generation, have a lot of matchmaking and connectivity and reliability issues kind of this last year. Is it possible that it's not only their fault?
I don't know. I mean, it's complicated, right? But Titanfall works great. There are other shooters on Xbox One, exclusive ones, that work fine. Yeah. And I just wonder if, clearly Xbox Live works differently on Xbox One than it did on 360 because of the Azure dedicated server stuff. And seemingly with Master Chief Collection completely exposed that, and they did not. It was not a smooth transition. Over. And I guess they're still sorting it out on Halo 5 as well. So I hope they get there.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of games.
I think they will.
We've seen, last year, I guess 2013 with Battlefield 4. Drive Club having problems. Little Big Planet 3 having problems. The fact that, a couple big shooters were delayed out of 2014 and 2015 with Evolve and
Battlefield.
And Hardline. And, we don't know the exact reasons for the delay, but just, I think netcode is trickier on these new systems than
could also be volume, maybe, right?
But
no, there are fewer people. Yeah, there are fewer
install base.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, I guess maybe not volume in terms of users, but users plus the games being designed for online connectivity.
Possibly.
Oh yeah, sure. That's
the one thing that, like, I don't know if you guys read Dan Stapleton's editorial that he wrote, like, I think it was last week or something.
Yeah.
Where he made the insinuation that, like, for all intents and purposes, these consoles are online-only machines.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's actually a really good point because you see problems with a lot of games, not specific to one platform or another, and not necessarily games that are multiplayer focused, like Halos and Call of Duties and stuff.
So you and I were talking before the show, Sean.
Yeah.
I've said this before. I've tweeted it. I've said it on the show. Even though in a Halo 5 interview that I did at the beginning of the month for our Hot Games of 2015 thing, Josh Holmes from 343 denied that there would be another beta. I think there will be another multiplayer beta before Halo 5 comes out.
Yeah.
Not only for just to drum up hype for the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like it'll have vehicles and be more, because this was the arena beta, right, to focus on the 4-on-4 experience. Because the other reason I think there's going to be another beta is, besides the marketing advantages of drumming up hype, they're at the point now where Halo is the biggest IP in the Xbox stable. It's the biggest thing Microsoft has. Everybody knows that. And they're at the point where the fan patience is
being
gone.
tested.
Yeah.
There is none left. If Halo 5 comes out and has problems online, I'm not saying, I can't imagine it could possibly be as severe as what Master Chief Collection has undergone, but if it comes out and doesn't work smoothly, I feel like, I know this is going to sound like hyperbole, but I feel like it could theoretically put the future of the franchise in jeopardy in the sense of, because, gamers are a fickle bunch. I mean, we love Halo, we've been playing it for a long time, but if you get burned 2 Christmases in a row on the thing you're most looking forward to, you might just say screw you and walk away.
Yeah.
So,
totally. And particularly in a market that's been so shaped by great shooters.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no room for error. That's
so I do think Microsoft will throw every resource, every dollar they have at it, but I'm just saying 343 and Microsoft cannot afford to have any hiccups at Halo 5's real launch. And so I do think there will be another beta, even if it's just a stress test, just to try and get out ahead of any potential problems. And so I think it'll get announced at E3. I think Phil says, here's the rest of our multiplayer, kind of what it looks like with vehicles now, and you'll be able to play it for yourself before the game comes out. I don't know when. I mean, if the game's out in November, maybe they do a stress test. Could be August, could be later.
That's funny. I'd be willing to. Oh, I don't know. I personally think that they won't show multiplayer at E3. That it'll be.
You think so? Campaign?
Demo. Yeah, it'll be like that Halo 4 demo that. Was
I mean, that is historically. Well, you're right. I think they're going to have to show some campaign stuff, and E3 is the perfect place to do it. But I feel like we haven't heard the end of the multiplayer.
Oh no, I can see
yet.
a big maybe the Gamescom thing is multiplayer. Yeah,
that's a better better thought. I think. Yeah.
The reason I would like another beta is purely selfish. It was so much fun to play. I was a little, when you and Alfredo played it for the first time at that event a couple months back, I don't remember what it was for, and came back and told me kind of the things that were going on. It seemed kind of weird that I may not like the direction, but overall I was really pleased with it. And it seems like a natural evolution to what
I agree
was a great foundation of FPS gameplay.
I agree completely.
And needed, in fact.
And I think there will be another Halo 5 beta, larger scale, 16 player with vehicles. But I think it's not going to be another 3-week deal.
Yeah.
I think it'll be like maybe a long weekend or maybe a week tops.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think when would make sense for that, because you got to figure Microsoft is fairly predictable in their holiday tentpole things.
Yeah.
Forza Motorsport 6, probably September. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, probably the October game. Halo, probably the November game. So they're not going to want a Halo beta to step on at either of those other 2 games. So I wonder if maybe like early September, maybe even right after Gamescom, like the end of August could be a time. So mark it down. Another dumb Ryan McCaffrey prediction on Podcast Unlocked. I'm usually wrong. I think I'll be right on this one. I don't have any insider info.
Yeah.
But
kind of unrelated, but not really.
Yeah.
Do you ever see extended betas happening for games like Halo or Call of Duty the way we see them for like MMORPGs or other types of PC games?
Or like those games that are like how Minecraft was in beta for.
Yeah, it's in beta for like
years.
2 years before it comes out. Like
not
Dota
on consoles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not been a console thing.
Right.
I mean, that's you can point to a whole bunch of PC shooters.
Yeah, early access is also.
Yeah, Tribes. The last Tribes game was evolved that way. So we'll see.
Speaking of evolved, did we just do that?
Oh, Destin's not even
sitting in Destin's
here.
chair. I did it. I didn't play this beta, the evolved beta, again because I didn't. Exist.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I know we've played it, covered it to death. I'm just more curious. Tweet us, write us, unlocked at ign.com. Just more curious because that big alpha that happened the end of September seemed like it. I don't know, from what I was hearing from people on Twitter, it seemed like it turned more people off to the game than on. So I'm just more curious if people gave it a try, which we suggested they do because it is such a fun game.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what people thought of it, if it swayed their opinion of the game, either for the good or for the bad.
Sure.
What were the particular reasons that people were turned off by the alpha?
I think the alpha created the perception that there's almost no content in the game because it only showed off the hunt mode, one set of hunters, one monster. So yeah, and we've of course learned about evacuation mode.
Yeah,
you can play single player. Yeah, the 3 now 4 monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is content there, and then I think the DLC news for that game didn't do it any favors either with the $15 4th monster. Unless you pre-order the game, then you get him for free, and like $15 for one monster is like. We talked about it last week.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough. The game.
So,
it's strange for a game that every time we've played an event, I feel like we've played at multiple events from the reveal to first
several times.
Yeah, to the big
E3.
shows.
Yeah,
and I've had a blast every time.
Every time.
But yeah, even I'm curious just to see like, okay, so I've loved it in these little small sort of contained environments. How much am I going to want to play it when it comes out? Like what length?
Fair point.
Like, how will it be able to sink its claws into me for a month? Will it be my multiplayer game du jour for that little bit?
That particular monster doesn't have claws. I just want to point it out.
A monster here. Yeah, especially since it's one of the the first sort of big games of 2015.
Yeah, it's out in like 3 weeks, like February something. So it's coming up real quick.
And the first big like multiplayer focused one, almost exclusively multiplayer focused, as I'm led to believe.
It's playable. It is playable by yourself with bots, and it plays actually very well.
No campaign.
Correct.
Sure. Yeah. People are going to want to play this with buddies.
Yeah, it's very Titanfall-y in that regard.
But after Evolve, what are we going to want to play in March?
See, I have the spirit of Destin lives on.
Mine are a little bit classier, whereas Destin's are just like jamming a square peg into a round hole.
More subtle. I like it.
Yeah. In March is the spring lineup for Xbox One kicks off. I got a chance to go play these last week, and we've got previews up on all 3. Brought a couple of other editors. Our new editor, Miranda Sanchez, came along.
Nice.
Played a whole bunch of Scream Ride. Elena Yee, our tech editor and former official Xbox magazine, a colleague of mine, came along and played Ori. I spent some time with the State of Decay for Xbox One. Of course, Jeff Strain is going to be on the show here in a few minutes. Okay, more than a few minutes because we tend to ramble a lot. But
and we are at the third thing on our list.
Yeah, it's not going well in that regard. But yeah, so we got release dates. So Scream Ride kicks off the first party lineup this year, March 3rd. And I guess, we'll start right there. So Scream Ride, I've been looking forward to it.
Sure.
Because ever since I heard it had a crash mode.
Yeah.
A destruction mode where the point was to terrify the roller coaster occupants and like wreck the environment.
Yeah.
So very burnout crash mode. Yeah. And what I like about Scream Ride, having played it now, it's divided into 3 modes. There's the roller coaster building mode, whose name I don't remember. I think it's like engineer mode or something.
That's where the lineage of Roller Coaster Tycoon makes
exactly,
sense.
Exactly. Because it's made by Frontier, who has people that originally they have the roots there. So I didn't even touch that mode.
Yeah.
Then there's the ride the coasters mode, where they give you a bunch of pre-built coasters, and it's actually a sort of a game it puts you in a tight third-person camera behind the roller coaster car with your test subjects in it, and you try and hit turbo boosts, and then you'll go up on like 2 wheels, and you have to try and keep the car on the track and get it to the end and make the best time. So that's cool. I like that. But then where I spent most of my time is the demolition expert mode, which is crash mode.
Yeah, which is amazing.
It's basically 2 parts Burnout crash mode, 1 part Angry Birds, because you have like
a lot of physics,
6 or 7 shots.
Yeah,
so it's like Angry Birds in that regard, where and you're trying to destroy this entire huge scene.
Yeah,
and it was a blast. Yeah, because it's just all physics based. You fling the pod, the coaster pod at the buildings, and there's like explosive barrels, and if you can hit the structural weak points, the whole damn building will topple over. Yeah. So I had a really good time with it.
Yeah, I know I
really did.
You and I both love Takedown and Revenge, the older Burnout games, and Crash Mode was so great, and this is right up my alley.
Especially since there's probably never going to be another Burnout game.
The saddest sentence
which is
ever uttered.
Incredibly sad.
Yeah.
Someday, I don't think I've ever said it on this show. Alex Ward, who was the founder and CEO of Criterion, the makers of Burnout, he was here one time showing off when they did that the Need for Speed port for Wii U, which was like, like they actually put crazy awesome effort into the Wii U version, so they were over here showing it off, and we went to lunch, and I was telling him about how much I love Burnout, and he was saying, we had this idea one time, because I think I asked him about Road Rash as well, because there was that rumor years ago that they were making a Road Rash game. I was like, oh my god, that's Criterion, Road Rash. Oh my god, EA owns it's all coming together, and then it never happened. And he goes, the idea was to reintroduce it and to cross over both as Burnout versus Road Rash. And then I threw up my lunch, passed out on the floor.
And he's like, okay, I guess I'll leave now.
Hours later when Ryan came to.
And then it never happened because Need for Speed sells 6 gajillion copies, and EA has them make that game instead. So then I cried.
Yeah.
And threw up again.
That's just more sad sentences.
Anyway, Scream Ride, good times, Crash Mode. I think you guys will like it. And it's only, I don't have the price in front of me. It's in my notes somewhere, but I think it's 40. Yeah, I think it's $40 if I remember correctly. Nice. So, not bad.
Yeah.
Then on March 11th, the very next week, you get Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah.
Which we've pretty much all played starting last year at E3. I think you played it at Gamescom or Comic-Con, one of those.
Yeah.
They showed off a new area that F's with the gravity.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
That game, it's gorgeous, number one. Hopefully there's an interesting story there. They kind of sort of tease this mythology, and we don't really know what the story is of the game yet.
The opening cutscenes online, and it's this heartbreak. It's almost like the opening of Up, where it's this really heartbreaking, time-lapsed, all visual storytelling of this heartbreaking loss in the main character's life. And I'm just like, God. So I hope they just make me cry more.
You had me at hello. And so I played it, loved it. It's definitely challenging. Here's why I really, really like this game, just like everybody else at IGN who's seen it. This really cemented for me last week for me, I know this is sacrilege to a lot of people. Braid, too smart for me.
Yeah.
It was just like I would get to the crazy puzzles, and I never finished that game. So it was just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
That is a very challenging game.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a phenomenal game. I'm just too dumb. It's not. I just didn't want to keep going with it.
2 or 3 of the core mechanics in Braid that I love Braid, and I replay it almost every year, and I still either the mechanics are broken or I just still don't get them. Right. Because it turns into a lot of annoying trial and error and bashing my head against a puzzle until it just finishes.
Yeah.
As opposed to I know exactly what is going to happen, so I will do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, Limbo, which I've gone on record as saying is my all-time favorite Xbox Live Arcade game for many reasons, is, Limbo has puzzles that'll stop you for a couple minutes usually, but then usually you'll figure it out fairly quickly, move on. I love Limbo partially for that reason. It is a puzzle game, but it's not one that I'm going to get hung up on
Sure, it's like Journey, where it's more about the actual the act of playing it as opposed to stopping you and challenging.
Exactly. So Ori, I love it because it's a nice happy medium between the two. The puzzles are more challenging than Limbo, but it's nowhere near the pound your skull on the nearest wall that Braid is.
Yeah.
So I think Ori's going to come out, and I think people are going to really, really love it. That's my take on it so far. I mean, there's a lot more of it we haven't seen.
Sure.
Maybe the other areas are going to be garbage, and they showed us the best ones. I mean, that's happened before.
Hey, they've showed. But so far, they've showed us like 5 or 6 areas, and they've all been good. So,
they've all been good. So
I'm all down for this.
So
this is a game I'm going into 100% blind.
Good for you.
I've seen screens and trailers kind of here or there, but never like in their entirety. And the only things I've heard have been positive things here around the office. I kind of want to keep it that way at this point.
Yeah,
right?
You should.
We're so close.
The only thing in the build I played, there were some frame rate issues because you're really, there are times where because you're screwing with gravity, you sort of jump from one way, but gravity swings you. Then you end up falling across the screen, and the frame rate was dragging. So, the game's out March 11th. Realistically, they've hopefully got 3-4 weeks left before they have to certify, and hopefully they're polishing that stuff up now.
I mean, obviously, smooth and crisp frame rate is desirable for most games, but not all games. Is this one of those games where it's like, you need it to play this game effectively?
A lot of it's a precision
jumping.
So then probably yes.
But I mean, you said that about this demo, but I was sort of surprised because the 4 times I've played the game beforehand, nothing like that ever happened.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah, maybe this is a newer mechanic, and that they're just
I always want to call it out for full disclosure.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, we're super psyched about this game. There was this one thing,
but also
they've got a little bit of time left. Hopefully, they're cleaning it up.
Yeah, there's always those. We've all heard stories about Game of the Year winners that came together at the 25th hour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wait, there are 25 hours in a day?
In my days, there.
Holy.
I went to Japan. I had like a 40-hour Friday.
That's a lot of Friday.
We left at 11 p.m. on Friday, and then we landed in San Francisco at 4 p.m. on Friday. I was like, "Wow, how is this happening?"
Oh my goodness!
For like 6 hours, I was.
You're Bill Murray in
city.
Groundhog Day.
I was like, I know how this day ends.
Buy a lottery ticket. Don't step there. There's a bus coming.
I was waiting for your Marty impression.
Marty.
You went with Groundhog Day.
That
was classy.
I'm good. I'm not predictable. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean,
and then finally, I won't talk much more about it because Jeff Strain's going to come on and we're going to talk a lot about State of Decay. But I played State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition, which is the Xbox One version of the game. $30
Nice.
Bundles in the 2 expansion packs that they've done since the original release. Cleans up all the bugs, adds in a bit lighting and textures. I mean, it still very much looks like an Xbox 360 game, but it's cleaned up a little bit. And if you already own State of Decay and you want to double dip for either you just want to play it on Xbox or maybe you missed the expansions, you get 33% off to $20 if you already own it. So it's like
that's awesome.
It's one of the best games of 2013.
Yeah.
So
and it's one of those secret games that so many people missed. Like, I only put in a few hours, so I'm stoked for this because I'm like, I'll gladly jump back in.
That's the thing, we're
missed it entirely.
Yeah.
We're talking yet again about remasters coming up in a little while in the news, and this falls in that category, right? But the reason I don't have a problem with this one is because it came out at the end of a life cycle on a platform that was dying, the 360. It came out June 2013. And worse, it was an Xbox Live Arcade game, and by that point, Microsoft had
Summer of Arcade
mentally bailed on.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even a Summer of Arcade game, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. So, a lot of people, I think, are going to get their first crack at State of Decay, and they didn't get a chance before. So, stay tuned for Jeff Strain. We'll talk all about State of Decay, the Year 1 edition for Xbox One, etc. Right. Oh, so real quick, Doug DeShazer, longtime Unlocked fan throughout.
Yeah.
We haven't done a Get to Know Your Locksmith in a while. Sean, you haven't done any of these.
Yeah.
We don't know you.
We don't know you.
You could be a
We only
serial
know you
killer.
we only know you as the mysterious shark.
Yeah. Coming up from the deep to feed every once in a while. I don't know sharks. I'm not a marine biologist.
I've only seen Jaws once.
Yeah.
That qualifies me, right? So Doug DeShazer writes in, I thought this was a fun question. We can go around the table. What dream job could you possibly get that would make you want to leave IGN? Is there anything out there? Because this is a dream job. It's great to work here. We get paid to talk about, write about, play video games. Is there something out there, Sean, that somebody came to you and said, I want to pay you to do this?
Oh, definitely.
What would be, what's the
Team captain at Arby's?
Arby's? Ew, no. McDonald's for life.
But a team captain.
I'm just kidding. I hate McDonald's.
Ugh.
And I don't think I've ever been to an Arby's in my whole life.
We're an In-N-Out podcast here, West Coast.
Does Arby's even exist in California?
There's one. It's in South San Francisco. There's literally one.
Like in
Arby's,
all of California, or are you talking about like
no,
NorCal?
in the Bay, in just the general, like the peninsula in the city.
Yeah, because I
don't know about East Bay.
I've lived in California 11 years now, and I have never seen an Arby's.
It's on El Camino Real in South San Francisco.
Huh.
There's like a big old like 1950s like light up Arby's sign. You literally couldn't miss it if you were to drive by it.
Weekly complete garbage monster segment.
The next time you're in the Bay Area and want to go to the only goddamn Arby's we have, head on down El Camino Real in South San Francisco.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I would like to do out there.
Give me the dream.
Make me leave IGN. First one would be like making movies, like in Hollywood. I have long
Harvey
been
Weinstein comes to you and says, "Son, I want to set you up with your own production company and give you
I wouldn't even
a multi-million-dollar budget."
That would be awesome. I would do that instantly.
I don't think he sounds like that.
He totally does not sound like that.
We're going with it.
That sounds like an Animaniacs character. That doesn't even sound real.
It's time for Animaniacs.
Yeah, that would be something I would love to do. Like, I love shooting movies. I love directing movies. I've done that for my whole career up until this point where I'm now working in the video games. I would love to do that. I think that would be the one thing that I would bail on a job like this for, is to go, work with top tier talent and hundreds of millions of dollars to make dreams into movies. That would be awesome.
This is Marlon Brando from the grave.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Sorry.
That's a good one.
I want you to shoot a movie with me.
I would be terrified to shoot a movie with Marlon Brando. He'd yell at me, and then he'd force someone else to be there. Did you hear about? Remember the movie The Score?
I remember.
I heard you had to read off cue cards because he wouldn't memorize his lines.
And
yeah.
I believe Edward Norton was the director of that movie as well.
What?
And for his scene, said
I
that
am
he
Jack's
wouldn't take
directorial
direction.
debut.
He said, I would not take direction from Edward Norton, and so he made Robert De Niro direct that scene.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That sounds like a very Brando thing to do. The famous thing that you're referring to is Marlon Brando's famous monologue in Superman, where he's the father becomes the son, the son through the father, that type of stuff. Richard Donner, the director of that movie, said he famously refused to memorize the monologue, was doing the whole thing drunk, and couldn't ruin so many takes in a row, like 40, 50, 60 takes, that they just decided to write the whole monologue on the baby's diaper. And he just read it off the diaper. And that whole time, that's why he's looking down. But it's such an amazing performance that when you're Marlon Brando, you can get away with stuff like that.
Marty?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Finnegan. I went to film school. I was a creative writer. So screenwriting is something I would love to do. I'd like to write a book.
What if it wasn't screenwriting? What if it was other filmmaking?
I don't know if I could do that. I'd like to, but I don't know. I think I'm a writer at heart. That's
Fair
what
enough.
I would do. Yeah.
If I would, the only dream I think I would just leave this for, I would just drop you all like a bad habit, would be if a Major League Baseball team called me and said, we want you to be our play-by-play guy in the booth.
Wait, any Major League Baseball team?
Not any team.
Would you be for the Marlins?
Maybe.
What's the last team you would want?
The last
Obviously,
team?
you would want Arizona to be your team, right? The number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though I don't want to live there ever again.
Okay.
That's the problem.
So what's
ideally, probably the A's. So because I love it here in the Bay Area. If the A's called, that would be awesome.
So I don't know baseball.
Second choice.
What is a play-by-play guy?
So the guy is just who calls the game.
On the radio.
On TV or radio. There's both.
Yeah.
Broadcast of some sort.
Here's the 2-2 pitch to Sean Finnegan.
Got it.
Slaps a single through the left side, base hit.
So like a commentator.
Yeah, so commentary
Analyst.
teams are usually, there's play-by-play and then there's a color commentator.
Yeah, right.
And the play-by-play is the guy who actually
calls the action.
Yeah, he
describes the action.
Yeah,
but
creates a word picture.
Sean Finnegan, sports.
Yeah, whereas the color commentator is usually
breaking
some
it down.
dumb former player who's mumbles.
Barr.
Yeah, he does the John Madden thing of I think the team who gets the most points is going to come out victorious in this one.
Right now he's thinking, I want to get a pizza. That's not John Madden at all.
Close enough. He wants a pizza.
Sweet. Yeah, that would be the only thing. I mean, of course you get TV money at that point, which is good money.
Yep.
And then just watching baseball and getting paid for it.
For a second, I thought you said TB money, like tuberculosis money. I was like, that is not good money. That is dirty money. That is sick money.
Literally dirty money.
That is literally dirty money.
That is as dirty as it
That is
gets.
infected money.
But otherwise, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Sticking here with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I love you guys so much. All right. Good job, Doug DeShazer. I thought that was a fun question.
Me too.
So let's, before we move on to the news and then the Jeff Strain interview, I want to announce this is probably going to come back to bite me in the ass. But going full speed ahead, we're going to make this happen somehow. Plans are already, discussions are being had, parts are in motion. Podcast Unlocked episode 200.
That's 20 weeks from now.
By some sort of calendar miracle or curse, I look at it as a miracle, falls exactly during E3 this year. That's awesome because IGN's mobile base of operations is at a theater.
Yeah, like an old timey, like almost it looks like a movie palace.
Oh, that's confirmed now.
Yeah,
we have the same
we're there.
venue.
Yeah, same venue.
Oh, that
Not
venue
like
was
literally,
awesome.
not 100, but we're moving towards that.
Cool.
Like it's that's the assumption. Put it that way.
So this could all fall apart.
We all know what assuming does. But if not, we'll find a place. So we're gonna do Podcast Unlocked episode 200 live. You are all invited. Everyone watching, listening right now, come to LA.
And that's the theaters. Theaters have max occupancies though.
Yeah, but we won't fill. What is it?
He said they're all
500
invited.
or
There's only like 6 people that listen to the show. It's Doug DeShazer.
I like how
Phil Spencer.
the world's number one Xbox podcast because our 6 viewers surpass your 5 Major Nelson.
Suck it, Major Nelson. But no, we're going to invite everybody.
Yeah.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to try and line up. I have an idea for how I want it to go and who I want the guests to be. And so I've started reaching out to those folks, and the first big fish has said yes.
Was it Phil Fish?
He doesn't like video games anymore. So no, it's not him.
And I think it
saw
would be
him-
fair to say that video games don't like him
He
either.
was. I saw him do a DJ set like a month ago.
Like spinning records.
Like
Day of the Devs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah,
I actually, I talked to that guy. I like him.
that guy's.
He's a cool
just,
guy.
He's a lovely guy.
Nice
So-
guy.
Did you just tell
I
him,
think
hey, dude, stop
misunderstood.
reading the internet and just make
Kinda,
games?
Yeah, just make that Fez too, or make
Yeah.
something else.
Make something else.
But he's one of those guys who's so wildly passionate that when he puts work out there, he's gonna jump on the internet and read
Right.
what everyone thinks about it because he cares whether or not you hate it or like
Yeah.
it. Like too much to a fault, I
Well,
would say.
Yeah, none of us are perfect.
No.
But you can get
Except
a
for
little
me.
closer to perfect if you join us at Unlock 200.
Nailed it.
No. Yeah, so we want to do a fun thing, invite everybody,
Yeah.
and come out and have a good time. I was talking to people, trying to line up a show,
Yeah.
but more details in the weeks and months to come. But if you have a chance to make it down to LA, come join us this June. So
It's
there.
gonna be a great show.
It will be
I
fun.
have no idea what we're in for,
Yeah.
but it would be
We're
awesome.
gonna give away an original Xbox controller. We're gonna give
A
away a
Duke.
Duke.
A big one?
Yeah, we're gonna
With fat
throw
ones?
Dukes in the audience and then just
Ow!
all these lawsuits.
My eye, I'm blinded. I can't. My eye popped out of its
I
socket.
got duked.
Hail to the king, Marty.
That's pretty good.
All right, we'll be right back with the news. All right, let's get into the news before we get Jeff Strain in here to talk some State of Decay and also his awesome past at Blizzard. Dude was here's a teaser, the original lead programmer on World of Warcraft. Like what?
Wow.
There's
That's-
more to come with Jeff Strain here in a little
That's
while.
insane.
But first, gentlemen, I have no idea how our bet turned out. I mean, Mitch and Destin are not here, who are
Yeah.
the chief participants in this bet with me,
Stakeholders.
the cheeseburger holders. So we had a
Still
little
got
bet.
It. It was funny anyway.
I believe that the Xbox price would not go back to $400. It did, but then it didn't. So I think we're just going to call off the bet.
The mulligan.
Yeah, I think we'll just bet on something else. But yeah, a mere 8 days or so after the Xbox price went back up to $399, Microsoft announced a new promotion.
Yeah.
Back to $349.
Okay.
Talk
so
to me, guys.
I don't know a lot about how law works, but I'm willing to bet that they legally had to do this. In terms of if they advertised the $349 at the end of 2014 as a limited
Terminator
time-
over there.
as a-
Jesus
I know
Christ.
that was
It was
horrible.
like-
that was
He
nightmarish.
just really that
Stone
loud?
Cold
Yeah,
just like
sorry.
crack, crack. Like, whoa.
It sounded like you were eating gravel
My bad.
out of your neck. I'm willing to bet that if they advertise it as a limited time promotional drop, that legally they couldn't, at the end of it, then say, oh, it's never going up.
Right.
Because that would, in theory, be false advertising for that 1 month or two.
Fair
point. I feel like it had to go back up, and the entire time they planned this thing. And so it's less flip-floppy and more of they wanted to capitalize on the sort of scarcity of the deal in 2014, but then also keep it down permanently.
So you're saying you want to throw the conspiracy theory out that this was planned the whole time, but they're trying to use the limited time thing as an extra motivator to get people to buy one over the holidays?
I mean, I think that's possibly yeah, but I mean, I don't see that as super malicious. I don't know if you call one.
I mean,
it's a system.
I
feel bad for the people in that 8 days, like the whatever number of consoles that were sold. I feel bad for those people.
People were tweeting me about that, but doesn't every store have like a 14 or 30-day price match? Or is that not a thing anymore?
Best Buy used to have that. Amazon has.
Because then you could, if that happened to you, couldn't you just take your receipt in and get the hopefully?
Yeah.
Tweet me if you couldn't get your money back and you were in that 8-day window.
Well, you got boned if you bought it at Radio Shack. That's why you don't buy things at Radio Shack.
The store went bankrupt in the 8 days that I bought it. What?
I went to a Circuit City and now it's just a husk.
What have I done? I've made bad decisions in life. Sean Finnegan, your take on this?
I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that there's anything malicious going on,
right.
like Marty said, and that's actually wise, is to look at like the language of the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
If it's billed here as a promotional deal, but what are they promoting? Like for the holiday one, it's the holiday sales and all that stuff. I think when you come to the end of it, Microsoft looks at it and is like, well, we want to keep it at this price, but we can't for one reason or another, so it has to come back up for some reason. But the goal should be to get it down there again.
So I wonder, I'll throw a little, I wonder if there were two envelopes in this situation. Envelope one was holiday 2014 doesn't go that great, even with this price drop. They put it back to 400, leave it at 400 because it's not making that big of a difference.
Yeah.
Envelope two, it goes super well,
as it did,
and they go with this plan and say, all right, let's keep this rolling. We're gonna go with envelope B here.
Yeah, keep the good train, the good hype train going.
But if it is envelope B, then why the momentary return to the price? The $400 price.
Maybe it's a combination.
Because like, didn't we talk on Unlocked about how like it would be cool, it would be awesome if at the end of the holiday deal they were like, oh, by the way, it's staying this way.
Yeah.
People would
Which they pretty much did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, unless you were one of those Xbox
days.
gamers who bought it after it returned to the price of $400.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this, though, unlike the last promotional $349 price for the holidays, they specifically said up front, this is good until January 3rd. This time, they just said promotional price $349, did not set an end date on it. My prediction, here we go, another McCaffrey prediction, another bad McCaffrey prediction on Unlocked. I think at E3, Phil Spencer will get up on stage and say, we've been having such great success, blah, 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 scripted, cool, PR-sounding thing here, and the $349 price is now the official permanent price of this console. Woo!
Oh, that's such a soft statement. You know that price you've been paying for the last 8 months? Well, you can keep paying it for the next 8 months.
This is how I think it's going to go. I will be curious you think there's a chance it'll go lower?
I don't think it'll go lower.
Yeah.
I just think that I don't think they're going to use an announcement on I am going to make the biggest jerk-off motion in the war room if one of their announcements is it's the same price it's been for the last 8 months.
But can't you see that though? Like,
yes, I can. I'm getting my jerk-off motion prepared.
You're practicing your stroke.
I'm gonna get my stroke on.
Oh man, I can. But that's the thing. The reason I say that is because they didn't put an end date on this.
Yeah,
so I just feel like
weird.
It's gonna ride
totally
for
weird.
a while, and then at E3, Phil will be like, "It's permanent."
Yeah. If it goes back up, that's gonna be super weird.
It can't now. That I'm confident. There's no way it ever goes back to 400.
I think
you can't do it again.
Those same words have come out of your mouth before, though, like a couple months ago.
It probably has.
Also,
during the holiday deal, Ryan was like, "There's no way that at the end of this holiday deal, it doesn't go back up."
I feel like 6 years from now, if any of us are still alive, we're going to be on this podcast, and one of the trivia questions is going to be back in January of 2015, the Xbox One went up in price for how many days? Yeah. And we're going to be like, oh, wait, did that actually happen?
And then we'll go back and we'll find that episode of Ryan being like, there's no way. And it goes back up in price.
That's a great question from Doug DeShazer. Doug DeShazer with the shout-outs on this.
And our seventh viewer, Doug DeShazer Jr.
Oh, my goodness. So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is good. I feel like this is what they had to do. You know, they're in a position where they've got a great console that has great games, but they are very much lagging, not only just in the actual sales data behind PS4, but they are also lagging in mind share, which is not literally as important, but it's future predictive, right? If you're the console that has the mind share tends to that's what sort of tends to project out well. So,
but this generation's weird because I mean, it's lagging behind the PS4, but it's also way ahead of the 360.
And it's just early in the life, the console's generation, right? I mean, we don't know how it's going to go. I mean, look at the PS3 was way behind in the beginning. Yeah, it had just they made like every wrong move, but from price point to the CEO, the executive statements. You know, a lot of the same mistakes Microsoft made.
That crab monster that they were fighting?
For massive damage. And in the end, worldwide, PS3, it ended up being virtually a dead heat. I think worldwide, PS3 may have even slightly edged out the Xbox 360. I don't remember the numbers, but point being, there's a long way to go. But, I do. I think they really had to keep it's on. The onus is on Microsoft to make the Xbox One the better value at $349 and. That's a great machine, man, to pick up for $349. The only people that are upset are the day one adopters that paid $500 for the console.
You got your day one edition.
You got that achievement, son.
Achievement that means nothing. Womp
womp. Price is Right, fail horn. All right. What's next, gentlemen?
The Windows 10 event. The event I didn't know was happening.
It sounds like a car sale, doesn't it? Nissan presents the Windows 10 event. No, not 10th event. 10
Is he saying
event.
10 or is he saying 10?
Can we buy a new car for cheap?
Why does he keep saying bear? Did you say ring bear or ring bearer?
I found out about this because I was checking Twitter on the way into work.
Yeah.
That is not the best publicity, I would say.
It's been known for a while. You're just out of the loop.
This is true.
Yeah. Also, yesterday, I think people started tweeting out that this is going to have game announcements as well, which is when we started to care a little bit more.
Which it didn't.
It had game-ish announcements.
Fable Legends.
I mean, less software and more of design. And UI.
Well, let's start with it and just see. Let's talk about what this means, what these announcements mean for Xbox. So number one, they all but said Windows 10 is going to come to Xbox One.
Yeah.
Did you guys get that? I mean, am I crazy to infer that?
No. That's that. I totally got that too.
Which is fine. I mean, the dashboard is going to evolve anyway. I mean, it's
it's just going to be a
fine
evolution of the UI.
But the thing is, it's all sort of DirectX 12 is kind of the common link between the phone, the computer desktop device, the Surface tablet, and the Xbox One. And they did talk a lot about DirectX 12, which we've covered here before. There do seem to be some pretty substantial performance gains in DirectX 12.
Yeah, that demo was pretty impressive side by side.
Yeah, particularly when running on Windows 10. So I think we will see some continued optimization and efficiency out of Xbox One games in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it reminded me of that demo. I feel like it was a prototype for the new Crackdown game.
From E3? Before that.
Yeah, it was that video
YouTube
of the stuff blowing up.
The cloud computing.
Yeah. Remind me of that video in terms of this is how it used to do, and now this is how it's going to be, and it's just stuff blowing up and looking better.
Yeah. So DirectX 12, and then Windows 10 is going to be a free upgrade if you have Windows 7 or 8 for the first year.
That's nice.
Which is cool. I've got an old Windows 7 machine, but sure, I'll take a free upgrade to 10. I mean, I wasn't going to pay for it on my aging computer,
exactly.
So now, I'll happily take it.
That's good.
That's good news there. They did announce cross-play with Fable Legends.
Yeah, that's weird.
Still in development.
Still in
Fable
development.
Legends, which we hadn't heard from it in a while.
Yeah.
But and it makes a lot of sense with that game because it's a 4v1 game.
Yeah.
One person is the villain, the other 4 are the heroes. You could certainly mix and match anybody. You can plug a gamepad into the PC and just play it however.
Yeah,
but
I mean, even with the villain standpoint, it almost seems like mouse and keyboard might
top
work
down,
better,
more
like
strategy-ish. Yeah, so that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, you have it down here though. It reminds me a lot of Shadowrun.
Yeah, Microsoft has tried this before.
Yeah.
This is not a new experiment. Then there was an RTS called Universe at War that Sega did.
I literally don't remember that.
Not a lot of people do. Good game, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was during that brief window, that overlapping window between the 360 PC crossplay, Live Anywhere.
Yeah.
Remember that? Live Anywhere? And that brief flourish around 2008 to 2009 or 10 when strategy games were just everybody was putting strategy games on consoles. Halo Wars, Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle Earth 2, Command and Conquer. I believe it was. Shit, I don't remember which. I don't remember which one it was. And then Supreme Commander came out on console.
Oh man, there's a lot.
There were actually a lot. This game, Universe at War. So, so we've seen it before. Hopefully, it'll go better this time because it kind of fizzled out fairly quickly when we tried it last generation.
So they mentioned cross-play. Did they mention anything about cross-buy?
If they did, I missed it.
Yeah, I think I missed it too.
Yeah.
I also had to leave halfway through.
So, do you care, Sean Finnegan? You don't want to play against mouse and keyboard guys on a shooter, do you?
Not in a shooter.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of cross-buy. I mean, we've kind of cross-buy and cross-play.
Yeah.
We've
our crack research team is on the case right now. Good job, Marty.
We've long known that Windows or Microsoft has been trying to unify sort of UI and design for a long time, which I think in theory is kind of cool, but I worry about designing particular experiences for multiple devices.
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't affect the games or one set of gamers doesn't have a very distinct advantage over gamers who choose to use a different input form or something like that, then it should be fine. Cool on them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And at the very least, like the tech for that kind of stuff would be greatly utilized in other aspects of gaming and stuff. So
they also apparently I don't know if it was at this thing today or this was recently, but there was a tech demo of Forza shown.
Yeah.
So that's on PC, I mean. So that's probably coming. And it makes a ton of sense for Forza to come out on PC.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we'll see about that. And then now it gets more interesting.
Business is picking up.
Yeah. He's heating up. There's an Xbox app, which I think a lot of us expected.
Yeah.
And it will let you stream your Xbox to a PC.
That's weird.
If your wife, kid, somebody in the family is hogging the TV, doing something else, you can have the Xbox on. You can control it from the PC and stream your game over there so you could be playing off the computer monitor while the TV's occupied.
Yeah.
I will never use this, just in my house. Yeah. However, this is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, and it's a way to play. I mean, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but Sony and Nintendo also have ways to play like this,
right?
With, either playing Vita off the gamepad or playing off Vita. Yeah. So, and even with PlayStation Now coming up. I mean, this is cool in theory. I will never use it, but like this could be this is a rad way to. If you have kids or if you have a family.
It only goes the one way. It doesn't go the other way, like from PC to Xbox.
Yeah,
one way.
It seems to me like you would want it to go. It could be better to go the other way. It seems like the PC is the hub. Like anyone I know who is a PC gamer or who plays games on PC tends to do everything on PC, so the PC becomes the hub of their living room.
Yeah,
not the other way around.
If you want to stream a game from your PC to your, there's, I guess hardware-wise it could be done, but you have interface issues at that point. Like what controllers are you going to use? What if it's a keyboard mouse game?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing strikes me as a little bit weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Be fun though.
It's neat. I want to see how it works out.
Yeah,
but I can't imagine as someone who just has a single room in an apartment.
It kind of feels. I don't want this to sound demeaning, but it kind of sounds just like the next version, a next step up from the the Xbox Smart Glass app that's already on your tablet, where you can kind of interact with the console in limited ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, if you're in a dorm where you know your effing roommate's hogging the stupid TV all the time.
Yeah.
So you want to play Xbox, you can stream it over to your computer instead of doing homework.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an option.
Don't do homework.
Just
drop out of college.
What?
Steal drugs. Wait.
Look how we got to where we are.
Do whatever it takes. Tooth and nail.
Survival of the fittest.
Smoke everything. I don't think that's how that line in Star Trek goes.
Everything.
Yeah. And then the big one, which if you have been following Xbox for a long time, you may remember back to the summer of 2012. We were young, we were innocent.
Yeah, we were smoking everything.
There was smoke and everything, and out of that came a big, like 50-something page PDF leak.
The leak.
From purportedly from Microsoft. Dude, Terminator, stop it.
That one you guys heard too?
I heard that.
That
You're
one was
literally
like,
breaking the bones in your body.
That one was my back, not my neck.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You guys are have finely tuned ears.
This is a very quiet room that has
that's
like
true.
echoing sounds.
I don't have I have nothing else going for me. I need something. So God gave me the good hearing, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, so that leak from summer 2012 mentioned a thing that was codenamed Fortaleza, which were these AR, VR glasses that would augment your living room Xbox experience. That's kind of real now.
Yeah, HoloLens.
Microsoft HoloLens would have been a much better name. Microsoft HoloLens, it's an AR headset, and it projects. It is literally you're wearing a computer on your head.
Yeah,
and it uses cameras and computing power, and it makes it look like you are walking around. You're a freaking Minority Report. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, and those, a thing people commonly get confused is that AR is different than VR.
Correct.
Because in VR, you are literally you are surrounding yourself with the image, like Oculus and Morpheus is where the real world no longer exists. Whereas AR, think of more of it as Google. I mean, this looks cooler than Google Glass, in my opinion. But
yes.
You are still able to see everything around you. If someone's about to punch you in the face, you're going to know they're going to punch you in the face.
So augmented has the implication that it's based on something else and it's enhancing the experience. Is it still something you use with your TV at the same time?
No.
What they
takes
showed off,
place of your display?
Yeah.
This is its own standalone wireless.
The world is your display.
I mean, because that's, Oculus hasn't, granted, Oculus is probably going to reach consumers' hands much sooner than HoloLens, but, Oculus is still a large, bulky headset with wires.
Yeah.
This, in its form, no such wires and no such bulkiness.
And, I mean, two of the demos they showed that were impressive to me, one was sort of the main one where the woman was on stage building a gyrocopter. And the camera setup allowed you to see what she was seeing,
right?
And so it was her, like you said, Minority Report, or like Tony Stark's lab and Iron Man, kind of sifting through parts and moving them and twisting them and putting them together, and then she built this 3D model of like a gyrocopter. That was kind of neat. And then also they showed.
How is she doing this with a controller?
No, with hand gestures and voice commands.
Huh.
Yeah.
That
so literally, like you're
crazy.
like
Connect
I would be
times
doing
20.
Is she wearing anything on her hand? Like
no,
how does
it was. I don't know. Yeah, it's
like how is it reading the inputs?
Problem. I mean, I'm sure there's a outward-facing camera.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then the quick Minecraft tease they showed.
Talk about
which was. It was ostensibly the guy was in his living room. He was looking down at his coffee table, and his Minecraft world was displayed on his coffee table. And if he bent down and got ground level with it, he was ground level with it. And so the idea of sort of exploring these places in almost a God's eye view.
Do you guys remember Tim Schafer's Double Fine Happy Action Theater, where it was a Kinect game where you would stand in front of the TV and it's reading you and it's putting your image, and it sort of tried to do that where it's like, oh, your living room is lava.
Yeah.
This is like the literal walk around your life version of that.
Honestly, yeah. I
Which
like that game a lot. Actually.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
It's super underrated too.
Yeah.
It's highly underrated.
Yeah.
I mean, so just before the show started, Wired had the exclusive hands-on They got to actually try it, and Wired they are a reputable source, even if they work in a dystopian office jail.
That was the saddest article ever. Did you read it?
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, forget it. But it's neither here nor there. But reputable outlet, and their account was extremely glowing.
Yeah,
extremely glowing.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see the gaming applications for this.
Yeah.
If
I could envision some.
Yeah, I mean, just
things.
like think about what you could if it works the way it's supposed to, and it is Minority Report. Like think about what you could do as a developer with that.
It's
talk about immersion.
It opens up everything. I wonder. I guess in an ideal world, if this thing can become real and not just like a half-baked version of this concept we're shown.
Yeah.
I wonder if because if this comes out as an Xbox One peripheral, similar to what Kinect did, towards the back half of the Xbox One life cycle, and then maybe the version 2 of it is sort of the foundation of the Xbox 4, the next Xbox.
Yeah.
I could see the roadmap going that way.
Yeah.
Microsoft kind of got burned doing that this gen with, they introduced Kinect, then they improved it and made it and integrated into the Xbox One, and that kind of backfired.
Sent it out the die,
but if this actually works, which Kinect never quite worked like we all wanted it to work.
Yeah.
Set a record yesterday for saying Xbox on 13 times before it turned on. So that was cool. Just a side note.
I've been having better luck with Xbox On lately, which is strange. I don't understand, but in any case.
Yeah.
So, did you like the Minecraft thing, Marty?
Yeah, and that's as someone who I don't care that much about Minecraft, but
right.
That was as a proof of concept of, man, I'm just imagining that sort of thing in other spaces, like a Game of Thrones thing where you have this view of like King's Landing or Westeros as a whole, and you can almost like Google Map Street View in your living room of going through cities. Like it's just
to me, it's not even like things with great views. The first thing I would make is now you can do a horror game and really put people in the action. That's people
someone's
hate
in
on
your room ready to murder you.
Yeah, I've said it before, but kids these days, a lot of people are like, oh, horror's dying. It's because you're watching it on your phone. It's not the most immersive experience, but you put something like that on someone's head, throw them into the dungeons with these monsters.
That sounds spooky.
That would be very spooky.
A little dead space with that thing.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Silent Hill.
Yeah, Battletoads. Speaking of just horror monsters that need to be put into the depths of hell.
That was, HoloLens, whatever. The big news that Marty is referring to out of the Microsoft Windows 10 event. The big news.
It wasn't what was shown. It was
Stop the damn presses.
Yeah. It wasn't what was spoken. It was what was shown.
Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, podcast unlocked listener, trolls us all by walking on stage in a Battletoads t-shirt. Marty, this kills you inside.
How excited are you?
This kills me for so many reasons, because they keep talking about, we're gonna revisit those old rare IPs you love. All I want them to do is go back to Banjo-Kazooie, and I know that this is gonna be the first one they revisit. And the big secret is that Battletoads is awful. Battletoads has a trio of garbage, ugly, sweaty, stupid characters named Rash, Pimple, and Herpy, and you're gonna play this. The game is terrible. It's a terrible beat 'em up where your fists get really big and your foot gets really big. Every world is ugly. All the enemies are ugly. That second level where you're riding a jet bike is just the worst. I don't know what blinders we had from this 20 years ago. This game wasn't good.
You see what I did? I just wound him
up.
And
this is happening again. And the other thing is, people in the office love this game, and I don't know why. I don't know what's happening. What is happening? Everyone is confused. I'm going to set it up in the demo room and have everyone play it and just be like, what is, is it Stockholm Syndrome? Is this all an elaborate con against me? Is this like the Truman Show?
I'm going to make a video of that exact thing you just said, everyone playing this game and having a brilliant and amazing time and laughing, and you sitting
I'm
very
outside the window.
stewing in a corner, just very angry and bitter about it. I look back at that game. I spent hours playing that game, never beat it, insanely difficult, but I think that was one of my first big, very memorable and lasting gaming experiences.
Being kidnapped is very memorable and lasting as well.
Did that happen to you? Is that why?
My daughter's been taken.
I saw a preview for a movie that I thought was Taken 4, and then it was just another movie. And I'm like, you are like every one of his movies. It's like his kids or his son's in trouble. And I was like, oh, it's Taken with a boy. And I'm like, oh no, it's just him being angry at the end of his life and wanting to kill everything.
It's Tooken.
It's Tooken. Done took.
J.R.R. Tooken.
J.R.R. Tooken. God.
Lord of the Liams, Neesons.
Lord of the Neesons. Yeah, when this game inevitably gets announced at E3, I am going to leave the room for a second.
I cannot wait for that to happen.
If this is back-to-back with $350 as a permanent price.
So
that's the one thing that gets me to leave IGN, because I burn myself security guard and go on a
Marty just lights himself on fire.
I just go on a walkabout in the northern woods.
So instead of the war room, can I actually put you in the room at the Xbox press conference just so that when we're all watching the live stream and they announce Battletoads, you just hear, God damn! just one guy
you hear
like
loud stomping
the
up.
balcony.
No, yeah, it cuts to a wide shot and everyone's like clapping, and there's one guy like walking up the aisle like fast.
Marty's doing the
you see his beard out there.
The Seinfeld gif, just the.
I'm done.
Come out.
Yeah, and I love Rare. I mean, Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorite games of all time. Donkey Kong, GoldenEye. This game, I don't know. Phil, I want to believe.
Time has shown that every one of Phil Spencer's T-shirt trolls eventually comes true. Mm-hmm. It happened. Well, I guess the Crackdown thing at the Xbox reveal event wasn't a T-shirt troll, but it was a Phil Spencer troll.
Yeah.
And then the what's the other big one I'm thinking of? T-shirt that he wore.
Wait, it wasn't the Conquer shirt, was it?
No, I'm blanking out now.
Shirt.
Anyway, there is a track record here.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to happen.
Yeah.
You think Rare's making it or someone else makes it?
I mean, I think whatever.
I mean, Rare is someone else at this point.
Sure.
I mean, from
back
in the day, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know who's going to be making it, but I could see it being like an XBLA.
Yeah,
again,
digital, an Ori style, Ori and the Blind Forest style.
But instead of being gorgeous, it's just ugly and nightmarish.
Tell us how you really feel, Marty Sleva, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't like frogs.
So you can't talk about this on Beyond, can you? This is an unlocked podcast unlocked exclusive Marty Sleva now.
It's my Battletoads rage.
You're our pre-order bonus.
Yeah.
It's the pre-order bonus for you on this show.
0 out of 10 IGN. I don't like frogs, says Marty Sleva.
Too many frogs.
Too many frogs.
So that's the Windows 10 event. We'll see when Phil Spencer is available to talk next. I usually can only get him twice a year or so, we'll see. He's a busy guy. Next up, Sean Finnegan, I'm going to go your way.
Let's do it. Oh, I now have to come up with the transition?
Oh, no, you don't have to do the transition.
Okay, yeah. Borderlands Handsome Edition announced.
Yeah.
That actually happened.
Yeah.
It includes B2 and the pre-sequel, but no B1. Borderlands 1 and 2.
Suck it.
Yeah. Kind of cool, I guess. Was there anyone who didn't get around to Borderlands 2?
2, no, but a lot of people tweeted me and were like, well, I didn't bother with because pre-sequel came out in October after a lot of people had moved on.
Thick in the next gen.
Yeah.
I remember that when that was announced becoming a pretty hot topic of discussion is like, it's towards the end of that life cycle of the consoles. Like, will anyone get to it? Even if it was good. Like, was it you who played it and enjoyed it?
It's good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I didn't review it, but I liked it. This is especially cool because also if you didn't play some of the Borderlands 2 DLC, some of it is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there. The Tiny Tina DLC is a standalone episode, and it's really good, smart storytelling, actually.
I never got into Borderlands 2, actually.
Yeah, me neither.
I liked Borderlands 1 a lot. I played it with a crew, but it kind of like, after I played it, I felt like I got everything that I wanted from that game and it wasn't like killer enough for me to want to play the sequel. And and then by the time it exploded and got to the point where everyone was playing Borderlands 2 and really enjoying it, I felt like I had missed the boat and I couldn't get into it.
There's also a $400 version that includes a motorized claptrap toy.
Yeah. Actual robot,
which
is kind of amazing.
That is kind of cool.
So this version does add 4-player split screen, which is cool because that's kind of a dying art these days.
In shooters,
yeah. So that game it'd be a lot of fun in a couch co-op scenario.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel with all the DLC bundled together for $60. And again, I mean, I'm not a Borderlands guy, so this doesn't do a lot for me, but It's just like, man, I thought on this show we put a moratorium on, like, we banned these from the industry.
Didn't Randy Pitchford listen to us?
Hasn't he listened to come on, Andrew Goldfarb, just go talk to Randy.
I'm of two minds on things like this, because while I guess in principle or in general am against remasters for new consoles, like, I very much want Mass Effect remastered, because I love Mass Effect.
A lot of people tweeted me that too.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, that's what I mean is I can see why I would want that as a Mass Effect fan, but I'm not a Borderlands fan. But if I were a Borderlands fan, I could see wanting this.
That's always the funny thing, because everyone has their everyone seems to be sort of down. All of us at IGN are sort of down on the idea of remasters.
Right.
Like Colin was super down on them. But then it would always be like, but man, if the Uncharted trilogy came out, that'd be great. Right. So everyone also has their caveats.
Yeah,
of
everybody's got their,
I don't need remasters, but
their
man,
price,
the Mass Effect trilogy, that'd be rad.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. I think for me, it's, because each game, it's a case-by-case basis, right? Because immediately you could say, well, Ryan, you're a hypocrite. You love Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
Well, that's
a little different.
That gives me something new. That new thing being, I can play Halo 1 online.
Yeah.
And Halo 2, I can play Halo 2 online, which they shut off the servers for years ago.
60 FPS too. Also a big contributor to a game like that.
Yeah. They completely remastered the campaign. But then you could say, well, I'm going to be reviewing Grim Fandango remastered.
Yeah.
But that game is, you literally could not buy it, could not run it unless you jumped through extreme hoops with like a Scum VM or one of those.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get that game. So there's each one's a case by case basis. I'm more disturbed by the trend. Just this trend keeps going. The publishers see dollar signs. I get it. If I were a publishing executive, I would do the same thing. I'd be on the other side. There'd be some other guy sitting in this chair whining about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's money. It's money on the table. You got to take it. But it's just, as a gamer, it's just boring, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want new experiences.
I completely agree.
We want new exciting ideas and new things. So that's kind of where the frustration comes from. Is not, because there are a lot of people where they'll be like, hey, either, I skipped pre-sequel because I moved to next gen, or whatever, and they're like, hey, I'm super psyched about this handsome edition, but it's just like, man, I'm ready for new things.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something new. Dan Stapleton, who I now hate him because he coined this phrase. I wish I'd thought of it first. He said the industry has a remasturbation problem.
Yep.
That is brilliant.
How much remasturbation is too much remasturbation?
Yeah.
When is it all right to remasturbate?
Got to clean the pipes, Marty.
God, Jesus.
Full body shiver right there. So, yeah, can we implement could we implement whatever the opposite of a statute of limitations is, so that a game...
A statute of limitations. We're going to erect a statue of them.
For our remasturbation problem?
Yeah.
We're erecting for our remasturbation problem. Statue. The opposite of a statute of limitations, where you can only remaster something if it's at least so old. If it's too new, you can't do it. No, we collectively say no, industry.
The NDA isn't up yet. Yeah.
Tomb Raider definitive, no. Sleeping Dogs, no. Borderlands, no.
Final Fantasy VII, all right, you can do that one now.
Okay, Grim Fandango remastered, yes.
We're good to go. Majora's Mask,
Halo Master Chief Collection, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm proposing.
Sure.
Is a statute of unlimitations.
Unlimitations.
That still doesn't work, but
yeah.
I'll work on the name.
Yeah. Give it to Dan. He'll be fine.
So we'll see. And that's really all I've got for the news. We kind of covered everything else. I'm going to go to Sean Finnegan. What can we spend our hard-earned coins on, my friend?
Nothing on retail.
Nothing.
Save your bitcoins.
Take that nothing and like it.
But on the Marketplace, you can get Assassin's Creed Unity's Secrets of the Revolution DLC for $7.
No idea what that is.
Neither do I.
Yep.
That is not the story DLC.
That was last week.
Yeah.
We covered that on last week's show, which was the Mea Culpa DLC, the Sorry Our Game Was Broken DLC.
Do you think that the Secret of the Revolution is what this actually is? That's the secret? Since none of us know what this DLC is?
Like, you have to buy this to figure out what this is.
It's a meta secret, yeah.
The secret to American history.
Yeah.
Is contained within this downloadable content.
It's French.
And then you have
Louisiana Territory. Louisiana Purchase was all just a sham.
D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die
Yeah.
on Xbox One in January.
Download it, free game.
And The Witcher 2 for the second half on 360.
Act
which
quickly.
we
You're running out
always-
of time. How could you not download that game for free?
Yeah.
It's like 100 hours of
Unless you got rid of your 360.
joy.
Because you can't handle more things in your living room.
That's entirely
And I
possible.
don't blame you.
Yeah, that's entirely
Yeah.
possible.
Also, speaking of remakes, when are we going to get that? When's Stick of Truth going to be on next gen? How has that not happened yet?
I don't think I think it would have happened by now.
Sure.
That's my take on it. I am probably wrong. Like I
thought it would
usually
have happened by during the fall. So
Exactly.
It was an early game. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like it feels like that ship has sailed, but you never know. I mean, I wonder if Ubisoft needs Matt and Trey to sign off on it, and they're just like, whatever, we did our thing,
Yeah.
we're done, we don't care anymore. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll ask them next time. I'll ask the Ubisoft people next time I see them.
Ubiquitous software.
Yes.
Did that sell a lot?
It did. I think it did pretty well.
Yeah.
Like for what it is, or like just
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
They never issued any press releases that were like, South Park: The Stick of Truth has sold 17 billion copies.
Because the trend for remasters seems to be like, let's double down on remasters that we know would kill again,
Right.
because they killed before.
Sure.
Or because like, hey, this person, or because this particular remaster fits a void that hasn't been filled yet on next gen, and that South Park to me doesn't fit with either of those.
It's possible that with this game specifically, they're not bothering because it would literally look exactly the same, except 1080p instead of 720p, because it's the
And
show's
you
art
wouldn't
style.
Notice that,
And
in
then
the
just
game
be like,
anyway.
and people maybe they worry that there'd be a perception of that there's just not like it's you're literally selling me the exact same thing with no anything. I don't know. It is a good question.
Yeah.
I'll look into that, see what's doing. We'll get and we did miss this one. You can download the Resident Evil remake this week for $20. Speaking of remakes,
Riramaki.
this is a remake of a remake. The remake of the GameCube remake of the original Resident Evil.
What's your statute of limitations there?
That's fine, right?
10 years in between
It's
each
been a
remake?
while since RE remake.
Well,
Yeah,
you can't
what was
really
that,
play on
GameCube?
GameCube anymore,
Yeah.
so I guess I'm good with this one.
We're
This one's-
letting it
yeah.
slide. You got away with this one, Kappa Capcom.
Judge Mills Lane, I'll allow it.
Jeez, Judge Mills.
That's right, 1990s references.
Yeah.
Just there they go.
What was that? Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yeah, MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch.
Didn't they make a game?
They did. It was awful.
You know what's funny about
PS2
that
and
show is
Xbox.
that show would kill nowadays, like in the age of the internet.
Well,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
the
don't
single
think it
skits
would
on
be a
YouTube.
Yeah,
show.
like-
Yeah,
It'd
it
be
would
a
be a
YouTube
YouTube
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Short form 3-minute content. You
Yeah.
couldn't make 22 or 21 minutes of network television time for a show like that.
That's the thing, because it had like a second or maybe even a third season, but by the end they just clearly run out of either ideas or
And they realized
people.
the gimmick
Yeah.
had just went to
Yeah, like okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, is like, I mean, nowadays you look at things like epic rap battles, which is essentially that. Like, that's what Celebrity Deathmatch is, like, in terms of format.
Yeah.
Celebrity
pick
Deathmatch.
anyone
If it had
From
not,
all of history.
Yeah.
if it had not been done today, it would be a really super cool and mega viral Adult Swim sketch, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably what it would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too many cooks.
I smell a Kickstarter. Bring it back.
Exploding kittens.
Do you know
We
how to
can
do
do it, guys.
claymation?
God.
Oh man. All right, we'll take a break now, and then Jeff Strain is going to come in. He's already been here. Spoiler alert. It's just editing. It's just editing.
Dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, we'll go to the Jeff Strain interview. Sit back. It's about 50 minutes long. I know that's may seem like a long time. If you want to skip straight to State of Decay stuff, move up like probably 30. Yeah, maybe like 30 minutes or so. That should about get you to the State of Decay. But I'm telling you, his background at Blizzard is fascinating.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll enjoy the interview. Thanks to Jeff Strain for coming in. And then we'll come back after that with Unlock Block Trivia and then get out of here. Yay. Very special guest on Podcast Unlocked this week, CEO of Undead Labs, Jeff Strain. Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. Glad to be here.
You're in town showing off State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition, which is, of course, the Xbox One edition of the game. We could generally maybe call it a Game of the Year type edition, right? It bundles in everything, all the updates.
Well, I'd love for it to be Game of the Year. But yeah, if you want to call it Game of the Year edition, that's great for me.
It was absolutely Xbox Live Arcade Game of the Year
Yeah,
from
no
2013.
question.
Don't think that's disputable. from that year. And so, your studio, you guys are up in Seattle.
That's right.
Not far from the mothership of Microsoft, with whom you signed a multi-game deal after
right.
State of Decay last year. And yeah, it turns out, I started writing questions for you for this interview. And I knew, okay, you co-founded Undead Labs several years back after ArenaNet. Those guys made Guild Wars. But turns out, number one, you have a Wikipedia page, which automatically makes you the coolest guy in the room. I don't have a Wikipedia page.
You have a Wikipedia page, right?
I might now. Somebody might make one.
If you don't, then I'm going to go home and make one as soon as we're done with this.
I appreciate that. But it turns out you have a hell of a resume in this industry. So I thought we'd kind of start back in time a little bit and then work our way forward. State of Decay, I guess we'll start at the top for those of you like, okay, what the hell State of Decay? Why are we sitting here talking about this? State of Decay is, and I'll let you talk more in a second, but for me, it was one of my favorite games of 2013. It's an open world survival. I call it a role playing game, even though it doesn't explicitly look like a traditional RPG. But you're surviving the apocalypse. You're establishing bases, recruiting people for a group to help survive, and it's really like, it's kind of the zombie game I'd always wanted to play, and you guys are now releasing it on Xbox One.
That's right, and just to address that, we actually you were kind of looking for words to encapsulate it right there, and we've been doing that as well, because the game really does blend kind of third-person action elements, strong RPG elements.
Yeah.
It is at its heart a sandbox open-world game where you have a tremendous amount of freedom to go where you want and do what you want. And so, what is it? What is this game? And and this was actually a challenge for us when we knew in our minds what it was and what we were trying to do, but encapsulating that into a sentence or two was really difficult for us, even when we were pitching it to Microsoft and saying, "Hey, this thing's going to be awesome." And they kind of had a hard time getting their hands around it at first. And ultimately, what we really think we're making, and I can't stand when developers go out and try to coin a new genre for their game.
Right.
But we internally
Levolution.
Exactly right. But we refer to it as a survival fantasy game.
Interesting.
Right. And this is and the hyphen there is. Between survival and fantasy, not between fantasy and game, right? We're not talking about fantasy like dragons and elves. Right. It is survival fantasy in the same way that Quentin Tarantino makes revenge fantasy movies, right? They're not historically accurate, and he's definitely playing to kind of the
entertainment
the
value,
vibe, right? The entertainment value, and this is survival fantasy, right? We zombies are not interesting because they're scary. There's lots of scary stuff in the world. For us, what's compelling and interesting about the genre is the long-term survival aspects of it. Is putting you in a situation like you would be in the real world, where you have to work alongside other survivors
who may not like you,
who have very different personalities and backgrounds, but you guys are in it, man, and you got to figure out what you're going to do, right? And that's what we wanted to capture. We wanted to capture that. I just saw an awesome zombie movie. I went out to the pub with my friends and had a few beers, and we spent the whole time talking about what would you do, right? What's your plan? We want to get close to actually giving you a game where you can answer that question, where you have so much freedom and agency in the world that you can put your own plan into place.
Right.
And so survival fantasy is how we refer to it.
So to that point, when you're saying, it's kind of hard when you're pitching it to Microsoft, did you pitch it to other people first? Or was Microsoft always the first shop, and Phil Spencer or whomever said, "Oh yeah, I need that game"?
Well, what we believed was that that the game, and especially if we looked at not just the incarnation of that game, but where we wanted it to go over the next decade,
right.
if we had the great good fortune for it to be successful, we knew that it would be pushing into new territory, and that ultimately we'd need platform support for that as well. This is because it doesn't fall into the standard mold of a first-person shooter or a third-person action adventure or a puzzle game, right?
Sure.
We knew we would need a lot of platform support on the console side, and we really like State of Decay is for PC on Steam. It's also Xbox on console. Like to be in both places
Sure.
in a really meaningful way for all players. But on the console side, we really needed a partner who was willing to kind of rethink kind of existing production policies and methodologies so that we could push boundaries a little bit.
Interesting.
And we had a real open conversation with Microsoft about that, and they were excited about the vision. Just in fairness, right? It took them some time before they really understood what we were doing. We're very fortunate that we have a team of very strong industry veterans who've made lots of great games, and so they were willing to go out on a limb with us a little bit just based on our pedigree and our history. But it took about a year before the game really came together enough that we could convince people what it was all about.
Well, and plus, I mean, I know for me, after the game had been announced and leading up to its release, like on paper, this game always sounded great. But the problem is there have been a lot of games like that have sort of aspired to the things that State of Decay aspired to, that sounded great on paper, and then when you finally get them, they're just so severely compromised, where it's not to say they're bad games, but it's like, oh, okay. But State of Decay actually pretty well got there.
Well, I think the game lived up to its core, right? I mean, hey, every time, I've been in this industry for a long time, I've made a lot of games, and every time you release a game, you are so immersed in the things you weren't able to do and the things that didn't come out the way you wanted to.
What could have been.
You kind of lose perspective, right? I mean, I remember when we sent StarCraft off to Gold Master, I thought, oh my God, we've blown it, right?
Yeah, you work for Blizzard. We're going to get to that,
right? But so State of Decay, we were very proud of what we'd been able to accomplish with at that time the size of team we had. But I think it definitely had some rough edges when it first released.
Sure. I gave it an 8.9 for that reason. I mean, the gameplay is a 9 plus for me, but it was rough enough around the edges where I had to. Yeah, I felt editorially I had to do that.
And so we even after release, we stuck with it and released a lot of updates to the game to address those. But what we had done, I think, when we released it was been true to the core, been true to that statement of, it's an open world survival fantasy where you can go anywhere, go into any building, and kind of build your personal survival strategy. We can take it a lot further. But I think for that initial snapshot of what this game could be, I feel like we were true to the core, and that's what made it work.
Do you own State of Decay? Are you able to own it, or does Microsoft own it? The IP.
It's a joint IP.
That's that's interesting, because I know the dream, right, is you want to own your own stuff, right?
Yes and no. And this is kind of getting off into game developer business, but hey, that's
interesting
to
me.
For me too, right? There is this notion that IP is the most valuable thing you can have, right? But I actually think that's not really accurate. IP is incredibly valuable, but building an engine that can create new IP is even more valuable, right?
I see where you're going.
Like, would you rather own Toy Story or would you rather own Disney? Right? And so this is something that we really invest a lot in at Undead Labs, is our ability to create new from the ground up IP, and we don't get too hung up on kind of the long term. If we need to go into a partnership and kind of share the ownership of that across the branding and the world and the technology, then we have great confidence that that what we've invested in with the studio is our ability to do that again. So it only matters if things go sour, right?
Right.
And we've actually been very pleased with our partnership with Microsoft. They're stupid excited over this IP, and we're stupid excited over this IP. And I think we've carved out a really good division of roles and responsibilities on how we handle it. And to their credit, they give us complete creative autonomy. I mean, the game that's in your hands was wholly envisioned, developed, and guided by the Undead Labs team, and they've been great support for us. So that's why we entered a long-term deal with them for State of Decay, because it's a fruitful and enjoyable partnership for us.
So yeah, it's you own your studio at least, but you're not beholden to a corporate mothership.
That's right.
And it sounds like that's how you prefer it, because you can then if State of Decay burns out or it goes, something goes horribly wrong, you can say, okay, well, I've got my team in my studio, we'll just build something new.
That's right. Yeah.
I like how many you guys are a fairly small team by modern standards. Is that accurate?
Well, I think we're at this point I would say mid-size. We're at about 52 full-time internal developers, and then another 20 to 30 contractors that we work with externally.
Right.
So that's getting up in there into especially when all those people are focused on one project exclusively. That's a pretty substantially sized team.
Yeah. So I started looking into you, and it turns out you have a hell of a resume. So let's go back in time. Let's hop in our time machine.
Okay.
We'll go way back. You were the lead programmer. If your Wikipedia page is correct, you were the lead programmer on World of Warcraft.
That's right.
So let that sink in for a second. The lead programmer on the most lucrative game of our time, except maybe Minecraft, but probably not even that, because we're talking monthly. I mean, that's insane. So talk to me a little bit about your time at Blizzard and being the lead programmer on World of Warcraft.
Sure. Well, first of all, just for historical accuracy, there were many lead programmers on World of Warcraft throughout the course of its development. That game took a long time to make. I was the first, and was the person who built the initial team,
right?
And got the project kicked off, laid down a lot of the foundation for what it was going to be and what the technology core was going to be. But really, the people who get credit for making a game are the ones who close it out, are the ones who bring it across the finish line. And I was no longer at Blizzard at the time that game crossed the finish line. So, I by no means take any credit whatsoever for the ultimate success of that game, other than just being a principal part of it.
Well, that's a little too humble, I think. I mean, if you're laying out the initial groundwork for what had to be an insane programming effort. I mean, MMOs had been done before, but I mean, come on, that's how much of what you laid down was left by the time the game shipped, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I certainly know that the game that was shipped was very close to the initial vision we had, and so I can only expect that a lot of those kind of core technologies and core decisions we made early on were still there. But look, I'm incredibly proud to have been associated with that project and worked on that project. But it was a cast of thousands. And,
sure.
Just one guy.
Now, you also, again, according to your Wikipedia page, you created the campaign editor for StarCraft.
Yes, I did do that.
So, did you have any idea that game was going to go on to have the legs it was going to have and become basically an esport on its own?
No, none of us foresaw that. Right? When you create a competitive game now, or a game that has the kind of balance that StarCraft did, and you envision that it will be a competitive game, one of the first things you think of is, how do we need to make sure that it's something that Korean players enjoy, and that we're really focusing on international markets, and we didn't do any of that.
No, not back then, right? You're just making a game.
And the fact that it took off so crazy hot in Korea was just took us as much by surprise as anybody. Well, let me speak for me. Maybe there were people in the high halls, right, who were looking at that and hoping that it would be. But at the developer level where I was, that wasn't even part of the conversation. Really.
Please tell me there's some sort of developer level profit sharing or something that goes on, or bonuses when you start selling million after million after million.
Well, I will.
Because you obviously deserve it.
I will not speak to Blizzard, but I will speak to my studio, and that is absolutely core to how we operate.
Yeah.
I actually, the very first thing I did when I started Undead Labs was create a profit-sharing plan and then publish it under Creative Commons on our website. And it's still there. You can go Google Undead Labs profit-sharing plan, and it pops right up, because I think a lot of other studios have adopted it at this point. And, my lawyers were appalled, and no offense, Steve, that I was going to do that. But it's something, you bring it up, and I do think, this is something very near and dear to my heart, that developers throw themselves into making these things in such an insane fashion, right? And there's so much, and especially when the team is just passionate about the game. I mean, they're so easy. It's so easy for you to take a 25-year-old programmer who's a couple years out of school, who just loves what he's doing, and just exploit the hell out of him, right?
Burn him out.
Well, and you don't even have to be evil or Machiavellian about it. You just kind of create this this perception that well, you're doing this for love, right? And hey, look how lucky you are. You're getting to do something you're passionate about, right? And I think that it's easy to kind of build this culture where, hey, we're so lucky we get to make video games, and therefore we should sacrifice everything else in the world, right? But look, a hit game like World of Warcraft or State of Decay or Assassin's Creed makes a whole lot of money, right? And the developers should see a meaningful part of that, right?
I agree.
And not just a nice bonus and a pat on the back at the end of the year, but I mean, really, like let's let these guys, participate in, if they're going to sacrifice themselves the way they do, right? So that's how we operate at the lab, and I hope that as this industry matures and grows, that becomes a lot more common for there to be transparent, legally binding, ironclad profit-sharing plans, and not other kind of tricky mechanisms that are subjective.
So you like me from watching from part, you must have been very pro Vince Zampella and Jason West during the whole Infinity Ward thing a while back.
Look, in absence of any other information, I'm always going to be pro-developer.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not educated enough about everything that was going on in that situation to really weigh in with a strong opinion. But in absence of any other information,
you create $1 billion franchise, you should get your just desserts, right? You should get your rewards.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So I'm going to lighten it up now a little bit.
Now that we've veered off into the dark underbelly of the game industry.
I do find the business of making games fascinating. I mean, you touched on how hard it is to make games. I mean, firsthand, I get a little bit more of a view than our average audience, because I do get to visit developers and kind of see what goes on. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch The Sprint on the Halo channel. It's a documentary that 343 is making about the making of Halo 5, and it kind of gives you just a little slice of the hell that these men and women go through to build these things, and it's just I mean,
but again, people work in the game industry, or they should be working in the game industry because they love what they do.
Sure.
Right? I mean, the only thing I object to is this notion that you have to sacrifice everything else in order to do that, while other people are enriched by the fruits of your labor.
Right.
And that's what we have to address.
So I'm curious, did you ever get to play StarCraft Ghost for the Xbox while it was? Were you there during that time? Was that something you got your hands on? Because that's one. Along with, because I have a.
Well, you're really digging.
Well, I have a long Xbox background. I worked for an Xbox magazine for many years up until I joined IGN, and we put it on the cover twice, and then it ended up getting canceled.
Right.
And sort of StarCraft Ghost, along with Warcraft Adventures, were sort of the two games that just were like, oh, they looked so good. No, how could this happen? So I'm just kind of curious if you have any. Any anecdotes about really either of those projects?
Yeah. They did look good, but they weren't.
Really?
No.
In what way? Like in what way was it not living up to? Because we never really got the story, right?
Right. And I'm not in a position to give you the story. I'm not going to be giving you scoop. I'm going to be giving you my perspective on why they were canceled. But to be very clear, I was not privy to those conversations. I wasn't part of the.
You weren't on those projects.
I wasn't, right. But what I will tell you is that through the mid-'90s and into the 2000s, Blizzard was building its brand. And part of the Blizzard brand is we never let you down. Buy on site.
Absolutely.
Right? Every game we release is an event. And if we ever violate your trust one time, then we lose that, right? And I'm speaking in the third person.
Of course.
And so those games, by by maybe purely objective standards, may have been fun games, right? And I played parts of StarCraft Ghost, and I certainly played quite a bit, actually, of the Warcraft Adventure, and they were fun.
Yeah.
But were they going to live up to the bar of what we were trying to achieve at the time for, kind of scale and magnitude and impact of
right.
games? And I think ultimately that's what it came down to, was it's not enough to have a good game. It has to be blow your mind, exceed all expectations, great. That was the bar. And I think that at the end, neither one of those were just living up to that bar.
I wonder if that's frustrating as a, since you didn't work on the project, I wonder if that's a frustrating thing, or if it's it's a point of pride and you say, okay, we're going to move on.
For the developers on the
For
team?
The developers, yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, Ryan, and this is a very controversial kind of mentality, but...
Okay, all right, I'm ready. Go ahead.
Healthy developers and healthy publishers cancel games.
Yeah.
Right? The key is you don't need to, don't put yourself in a position where every time you do that, you have to go lay people off.
Right.
Right? And that's, I think, what happens is that when you get 3 years into development and, $50 million invested, people get to a point where like, well, it's too big to fail now, right? So we got to see, even though we know it has all these problems, we've got to get it all the way through to the end. And then you get in a situation where, like if you do cancel it, you're laying off teams of talented people and you're shattering people's livelihoods, and and it's terrible, right? But you have to have the ability to evaluate things as they go against your own metrics. Like what do we consider to be a successful game, and are we going to be proud of this? And are players going to look at this and feel like our passion and our love went into it, and that we're being respectful of their time and their dollars, right? You have to have a mechanism to evaluate all those things, and you have to be willing, if it's not working out, to say, hey, this one isn't going where we want. And yes, we could keep doubling down and grind away and try to get it there, but let's step back and put this one aside and go another path and see if we can have more confidence going forward. That's a healthy process, as long as it is a process and not a panic, freak out, oh my God, this totally took us off guard, this thing is crazy bad, and now we have
to have a safety
net,
have a plan. Really.
Yeah, treat it like treat it like a business where my primary goal as the owner of Undead Labs is to never ever have a layoff, right?
Wow.
Ever. That doesn't mean I won't fire people if they're messing up.
Sure.
Right? But if you have to have a layoff, it's the responsibility of management, right?
Yeah.
It just really is, right? It's my job to see where the market's going and to make the right decisions about what kind of games we make and to ensure quality and all these things. And my goal is to build a studio that is capable of repeatedly creating great games. And maybe after 30 years I'll look back and say, hey, largely achieved that. Maybe I'll look back and say, oh, here's where I made mistakes. But part of the process has to be, we have to be able to incubate games and experiment, and not look at every failure as a catastrophe, right? You have to build a culture where people's motivations are to do awesome things and not to avoid mistakes. And the way you do that is by people not having to fear for their jobs every time they make a judgment call that turned out to be wrong.
Right. Now, one Blizzard game.
Here we are on the serious topic
again.
Right?
We'll get back. Here we go. So, one Blizzard game that definitely did come out and that you worked on was Diablo.
Yes.
What was your role on Diablo? I'm very curious, because that game for me came along at a time in my life. I was I think high school at that point for me, and it completely. I knew Blizzard as the real-time strategy people at that point, and I was never a big RTS guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then Diablo came out, and it was just like, whoa! Like it was
hugely controversial.
And I remember it was delayed past like just a couple months. I think out of the
17th.
fall into January. And it was just like, whoa! We're waiting a little longer. Okay, and I remember the beta, and it's just like. That game changed a lot for me as a gamer. So I'm curious, what was your role on the project, and what are your sort of memories of Diablo?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to imagine now, but when we announced Diablo and started talking about it, the general consensus was that the role-playing game market was dead.
I remember that time.
It's hard to imagine now, but that is actually, people you're making an RPG. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was definitely an uphill battle. I mean, there were conversations about it internally, there were certainly press was commenting on it. Well, the RPG market's pretty dead. We, hope this works out well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it did, right?
And then some.
And then some. And but what I've always been proud of about Diablo was, I love the best thing that I get to do as a game developer is introduce a new experience, a new game experience. There's so many games out, and a lot of great games, right? And some games that are just okay, but it's once or twice a year that you play something and you really feel like you're doing something new, not seeing something new, right? Not just pretty art, but I mean actually doing something new as a player. And I think what I'm most proud of in that game is that I felt like we did that, right? That was
very true.
It was introducing a whole new
like,
style
what?
of
This
play.
is procedurally generated? It's random every time?
Yeah. And my role on it was I actually had two roles. So one was I did a lot of work on the Battle.net infrastructure, and in particular there was kind of the server side of it, and then there was the client connection side of it, and a lot of the client connection
on our 28.8 modems.
Yes, that's right. And then I also did a lot of the low-level assembly language-based debugging on it. So
translate that to English for me.
So the game would just hang, right, and freeze on your screen. And like, well, why, right? There's no, it didn't throw any assertions. There's no stack dump. There's no, kind of no information that programmers can go look at to figure out why it did it. And so I would have to hook up external tools. It was, I think, something called Soft Ice, and dump all the disassembly out and try to figure out what had gone wrong. And you don't even look at the source code when you're doing that. You're literally looking at the machine code and figuring out where it was. And in those days, there were so many driver incompatibilities and video card vagaries, and so that was an interesting trial by fire for me. I was a young programmer new to the industry at that point, so it was pretty scary stuff.
What's your So you didn't work on Diablo 2. Had you departed by then?
Yeah, I had departed by then.
Is Diablo 1 your favorite? Have you played all of them? And do you have?
I've played all of them, and yes, Diablo is my favorite. I mean, obviously each one gets more polished and more sophisticated.
Right.
Right. But again, when I look at games that are my favorites, it's almost always when I got that new experience. Something brand new for the first time.
So after your time at Blizzard, you co-founded ArenaNet, which became very successful with Guild Wars, and then NCSoft eventually bought it.
Right.
So do you feel like, is that like do you feel like you've got to move on at that point when some parent company comes in and and buys it, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go start something new now?
I didn't at the time. I was. We didn't know what we were doing when we started ArenaNet, right? I mean, my co-founders, Patrick Wyatt and Mike O'Brien, are still to this day the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and I was incredibly fortunate to have them as business partners. But all three of us were techie guys, and didn't know anything about the reality of starting a business, and especially this was a time when we were going to go for VC funding, and we had a internet was the word, was a word in our business plan, and this was in early 2000, March, April 2000, and of course that summer was when
the bubble burst.
The burst, right? And so we had to pivot pretty hard away from kind of some of the initial way we were presenting the company, and it was hard for a couple of years. It was really an interesting time. Learned a lot, but when we were acquired by NCSoft. My thinking at the time was, well, that's great, right? We've built this thing. We're super proud of it. We, had the great good fortune to have been able to bring in a lot of really high caliber developers, many of whom are still some of my best friends today, and I continue to work with today. But I had no plans to leave the company. I wanted to build it and see how far we could take it. And I think I was there 7 or 8 years post-acquisition. But, ultimately, whenever a company is acquired by another company, the goals and standards and objectives of the parent company are ultimately going to guide and focus the goals and objectives and standards of the acquired company.
Right.
And I was, had a great relationship with everybody who was involved, but definitely did get to a point where I wanted to go do some new things, like make State of Decay that just wouldn't have been possible there.
Did the three of you co-founders get to cash out when an NCSoft comes in? Then you think, okay, this is great. I can go start my own thing now. I mean, you say you hung around for many years after, but is that like, do you get like a winning lottery ticket for that or what?
Well, I mean, when you sell a car, you get paid for your car, the value of your car, and we did sell the company to NCSoft, and so certainly there was some financial comfort.
Nice.
Part of that, but not like
FU money.
Go buy your yacht, and, right? I mean, it is, and here's the other thing too, is that there's a big difference between being your own boss and having a studio and being an employee of an acquiring company, right? And I think some people can be very comfortable in that situation, and some people just have a hard time with that. And I think all three of us were along that spectrum in different places. And for me, I was ready to go try new things.
So that's fast forwards us to Undead Labs and to State of Decay, and you're finally getting the game together. It's almost 2 years ago now it came out, June 2013. How did you think State of Decay was going to do?
I have to tell you,
because for those that don't remember, it blew up, and we'll cover more on that in a second. But how did you think the game was going to do?
So State of Decay broke some rules, right? It has permadeath. When your character dies, your character's dead. That is game design no 101, right? I mean, you don't do that.
But why? Because it adds so much to the game in that it strengthens your relationship with that character and makes them matter.
Right.
It seems like that shouldn't be a rule that we.
It makes your decisions matter, right?
Right.
And you start thinking very carefully, but the game has to be structured to reward that, and for the fact that your decisions matter to matter, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
To have if you make good decisions, there should be positive consequences rather than just, okay, now you achieve the next pre-canned objective, But still, and I'm not even speaking from kind of a gut or intuition level, over time, games that had dabbled with permadeath had struggled, right? Weren't as successful, and when you start doing usability tests and user research and all these kinds of things, people quit when they lose their character, especially in a game that is specifically designed to cause you to start building a relationship with that character.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, though, that if you're truly going to make a survival fantasy game, right, if you're truly going to put people in the apocalypse, that just has to be part of it. And so we felt like, even though it was very atypical and very kind of considered to be something to avoid in game design, we felt like if we were going to make this game, we had to do it. And so, we were very interested when we released it to see whether people would rage quit. And here's what we found out. We were asking the wrong question, because they did. They rage quit. They absolutely did. The question we should have been asking is, will they come back? Right? And they did.
Yeah.
And that I think was kind of the biggest lesson we learned. And to me, an indicator that at least we got some part of that right was, there were all these YouTube videos in the months after State of Decay released of people getting their Marcus killed. So Marcus is the character you start with.
Yeah.
When you're going through the tutorial. And I think for people who don't really understand what the game is all about, you kind of make the assumption like you would with Tomb Raider or any other third-person game.
He's your lead character.
This is my character. This is the main protagonist of the story, right? And and in the game, one zombie's not that threatening. Even 3 or 4 aren't. But over time, your stamina depletes. You may run out of ammo. You may do something stupid and make a lot of noise, like a car explodes by accident, right? And it pulls 30 or 40. They get you pinned in, and all of a sudden you realize, wait, I may not get out. Hey,
this is it.
This is it, right? And you maybe you fight out of it, but maybe you don't. And then you get this gruesome scene where they pull you apart, and then you're back in wherever your home base was, and you're playing as a different character, right? And I think that was a real shock to a lot of people when they first played the game. We had all these YouTube videos of how did your Marcus die, right? Yeah, and in fact, in the Year One Survival Edition of the game, we've used game DVR. It automatically records all player deaths, all character deaths, so that it's easier to kind of share those moments.
Well,
right?
It probably says something that I played the game almost 2 years ago. I remember when and where my Marcus
died. Yeah.
Yeah. To that end, Jeff, do you think are games too handholdy now? Do we cater too much to the mass market, and it's like, oh, we have to reward everyone for every little thing they do in a game because it's do we need to?
I don't think so. I think gamers are not homogenous, right? And this is in kind of the current environment of who's a real gamer and who's not a real gamer, right? Like, the beauty of where we are in this industry is that there are so many gamers.
Absolutely.
It is so so many passionate gamers around the world that pretty much anything, if it's done well and it's a focused experience, right? You're going to get a lot of people who are into it. I could go make a Care Bear meets the Cupcake Lord game, right? And
yes,
and
why not?
And if I make a beautiful Care Bear meets the Cupcake Lord game with really compelling mechanics, and it's really designed for that market in terms of how the user interface is presented, and it's created with respect for the players, right? And this is a big thing we always talk about. Whatever you do, make an experience that's respectful of gamers, right? Then there's an audience for that's huge. That's going to go love that game, right?
I'm seeing an awesome platformer in my head right now.
Well, actually, one of our developers that you met yesterday, Brant, who's showing the Year One Survival Edition with us to you yesterday, his big idea is he wants to make a battle card game called Boy Band, right? Right?
That'd be a little bit of a licensing nightmare.
Yeah, now I've just given away his brilliant idea.
Somebody's going to go, that's going to be on iPad tomorrow from someone.
I know, and then he's going to be angry with me. But I mean, the point there is that, I don't like, debates about what games should be or whether they're to this or whether they're to that, right? I love State of Decay. I love Fire Emblem on my DS, right? It's probably my third or fourth favorite game of all time. Very different experiences, very different platforms, right? That, I guess you could also say, is a pretty hardcore game, though. So I'm not exactly giving you endpoints of a spectrum, but no. I mean, I think that State of Decay is definitely a core game for core gamers. It's very deep and sophisticated, but I don't think all games have to be that way.
So as State of Decay comes out, I think reviews pretty well. I don't know what other people besides me gave it, but and it starts to sell well right away, like right away.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have? Is there a command center screen that's showing the sales tallies as they come in, or do you have to wait for updates from Microsoft?
No. So this is one of the great things about leaderboards, is that you'll notice that almost every game with leaderboards, at least one category, is something that you achieve pretty much just by logging in and playing the game, right? And the reason we do that is because that's within 2 or 3%, a pretty good indicator of how many people have bought the game.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
you're saying that's why developers do it? So they can get it? That's cool. Shocking revelation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm giving away any big.
No, it's just interesting. I find that I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah. So the night we released State of Decay, the whole team, I just can't even explain what that's like for developers. It's like you've been working on your baby for years, right?
Yeah.
You've put so much into it, and you're so excited about it, and you're so proud of it, but you have no idea how people are going to react to it. I mean, and especially one that kind of has that defies traditional description, that has mechanics that are a little bit controversial.
Well, and it's on Xbox Live Arcade, which, I mean, as much of it, I love that service, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? Because are you going to get any homepage dashboard promotion? Is the game going to just be buried somewhere, and it's like only going to rely on word of mouth? You don't know, right?
Well, and particularly...
And it was $20, which at the time on 360, like, we went from 5 to 10 to 15, and then you guys are floating out there at 20. Yeah. Of course, the game's so super worth it. Now lots of digital games are 20, but that was probably part of the fear too.
And Xbox Live Arcade was a great channel for its time.
Yeah.
But this is June 2013, and we're already starting to talk about next gen in a substantial way. Xbox Live Arcade at that point was starting to shrink, right? I mean, it just wasn't as hot of a channel as it had been 2 or 3 years before. And so for all those reasons, you know, it was definitely a lot of different factors. We didn't know how they would play out, but you know, I stayed up till 2 in the morning because that's when the servers went live, and I wanted to make sure the downloads went live, and I wanted to make sure there weren't any catastrophes with that. And I saw, you know, 4, 5, 6 people logging in on the leaderboards, and I was like, okay, so it's out and it doesn't brick people's Xboxes. I guess that's great, right? So I went to bed. And I woke up at about 6 because we wanted to make sure that we were all there to address anything if anything went wrong, and you know, and there's a lot of kind of launch day responsibilities, and I checked the leaderboards, and they were at about 60,000 in the 4 hours since I'd gone to bed.
Right.
Which, I mean,
that's not insignificant.
4 hours from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. You know, we sold 60,000 copies of the game, which far, far, far exceeded even our most wild desires and hopes. By the time I got into work, it was 80,000. By lunch, we were at about 120,000. By the end of the day, I think we'd just closed in on 200,000, which is, you know, 1/5 of a million, right? In one day, and it was like a fantasy world, right? I mean, we were all just walking on air. We couldn't believe it. We were so excited.
Is it disbelief? Are you guys checking like to make sure there's not some leaderboard bug? Or, I mean, and I'm kind of curious, especially when it gets to, I remember it sort of steamrolled, it sort of snowballed and got to 500,000 really quick, and then like very shortly thereafter it hit 1 million.
Yeah.
So when it hits 1 million, what happens at the studio?
Well,
party?
No, we were not partying. We were, you know, like we said earlier, we had a lot of work to do on the game. All right, these people had stepped up, put their money down for an unknown game, just because they thought it looked cool, and we damn well needed to make sure they were happy and live up to their expectations. So, you know, the entire team spent the next 4 to 6 months polishing, hunting down remaining bugs. Refining systems based on player feedback. Our forums were very active. There was, you know, we got one of the other controversial features in the game, or I guess I would say speculative features in the game, was the offline progression, and we got strong feedback about the offline.
I remember that.
Right, so we made a lot of changes to it in that first 6 months to address that feedback, and that kind of ongoing dialogue with the players of the game was something that was super important to us, and I think also just how we were accustomed to supporting our games, you know, coming from games like online games like, you know, StarCraft and Guild Wars, right? Having that kind of online community that we were just constantly engaged with was something that was just super important to us, and I think critical to kind of that early success of the game was I think people really appreciated that the developer was, that we were there, we were listening, we were interacting with them directly, and that we were clearly committed to making sure the game got where it needed to be.
I hope you don't take this question as antagonistic, because I don't mean it that way. But as a developer, you know, do you really want to do an Xbox One Year One Survival Edition of the game when this comes up, or you know, does Microsoft want you to? I mean, wouldn't you rather spend time building the next full thing, whatever that is?
Well, those are two separate questions. Do we really want to do it? Oh yeah, man. I mean, one of the most rare opportunities you get as a developer is to okay, hey, now you've got time and resources to go back and fix some of the things you wanted to fix and add some of the things you had initially wanted to add, and really make this the ultimate incarnation of this game. And especially as, you know, because we released it right at the transition to a new hardware platform, to a new console generation. You know, we really feel like getting to build Year One Survival Edition is an opportunity for us to create the definitive experience of the game and then put it on a platform where players are going, rather than it living on a platform where players have been,
leaving.
Right?
Yeah.
So we very much look at this as kind of our new beachhead, right? This is the baseline for where we're going to take this thing, right? So yeah, we definitely want to do it. As far as, you know, wouldn't we rather be working on kind of longer term plans. Well, all I can say to that is that, we don't have to just be working on one project at a time.
Fair enough. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask the number one thing that I think people bring up about State of Decay was something that you guys even addressed yourselves as the game was originally releasing.
It starts with an M, doesn't it?
No, but I'm curious to know what you're thinking in a minute.
I was thinking multiplayer.
Well, yes. So that actually, I was thinking C for co-op.
Co-op,
and
yes,
so
okay.
that's co-op. Evidently, if I recall correctly, was originally sort of in your at least thoughts, if not actual concrete plans.
Absolutely our plan.
And then the game, you had to ship the game without it, and then you'd said, I think I recall this correctly. You never promised it. You never said we are going to put it in, but I think I remember you guys saying if the game does well, we will do our best to get it in. So it is not a part of Year One Survival Edition.
That's right.
So and you're obviously a programming wizard. So is it an engineering issue? I'm just kind of curious. That is the one thing people super want to know. So
Right.
if you could maybe speak to the co-op issue as it pertains to this new Year One Survival Edition and its absence.
Okay, so yeah, it is an engineering issue, but more it's an opportunity cost issue, I think. Right, we could go retrofit cooperative multiplayer into State of Decay. It would feel janky. It would not feel
right.
Like it was a native part of the experience. We could band-aid something in that kind of gave you the minimal ability to run around in the world with somebody and shoot something. We'd have to make all kinds of concessions, like you wouldn't be able to engage in melee combat because if you're going to build a multiplayer game of any kind, and in particular, a large-scale multiplayer game. All of the animation and what we call the state machine systems have to be authored around that network model. So, for example, if you aim your gun at a zombie and shoot, or let me go to the melee example. If you engage with a zombie and start fighting it,
right.
Start hitting it with your sword. There's a piece of the code called a state machine that interprets the player motion and goes through all the various states of combat and ultimately spits out on the end what animations to play.
Right.
That piece in the middle has to be network aware. It has to understand that pieces of what it needs to know are coming into the network, and some pieces of what it needs to know are coming in from the controller, and it has to be able to synchronize that across with all the other players. And if you don't architect it that way, and maintain that architectural split all the way through, then it's very, very difficult to go in and retrofit all that. There's no question that State of Decay screams out for cooperative multiplayer.
Yes,
I feel it every time I play it. Everybody feels it every time they play it. Right? You just want to have that experience with your friends. When that day comes that we do that, we want it to feel like it's the heart of the experience and not something that's grafted in.
Yeah.
And the time it would take us to graft something in would be time away from
building the next proper incarnation of it.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so, State of Decay, it's a single player game, but it is very much a proving ground for the experience that we would like to carry forward as we look at the future of State of Decay. But one thing I can tell you is that that future is very much has multiplayer at its heart.
So the message to gamers on that would really just be you have their interests at heart, and it's think longer term rather than short term gratification of band-aiding it in an imperfect way into the excellent game they already have.
That's right.
Fair enough. Now, on that note, I again would be remiss. A long time ago, before State of Decay had a name,
right?
There was a project announced called Class 3.
Mm-hmm.
That was the code name for what became State of Decay.
Yep.
At the same time, you laid out something called Class 4 as well, which was described to be I don't know if massively is the right word, but let's call it a persistent online evolution of the Class 3 experience. Is that still the plan?
Right. Part of what we wanted to do was, by splitting those two concepts, was have a checkpoint, a stepping stone, so that we could evaluate some of these risky design decisions, see how
Sure.
players engage with the game, and then figure out how to move forward in a way that was that players wanted. I think a lot of kind of that original vision would definitely be shaped and changed and molded by what has actually come to fruition.
Right.
And what we look at what players actually want and how they're playing the game. So this was, the concepts you're bringing up were things that we were talking about probably 3, maybe 4 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that when we look at the future of where we want to go with State of Decay, it's not strictly defined by what that was, right? It has definitely been, in other words, wherever we take this, it would be based on what is and what players have told us.
Yeah.
And not necessarily we thought the world would look like 4 years ago.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, let's calm down now. We'll wrap this up. I'm just curious. You're clearly a guy who, extremely intelligent man. Obviously, if you were the lead programmer on World of Warcraft, that's pretty much. And some of the programming stuff you were throwing out at me was above my head. So, what was your game of the year for last year? We just announced ours on IGN. What was your favorite game of 2014?
Shadows of Mordor. Yeah.
Strong pick.
Yeah.
What about it appealed to you specifically?
It's a systems-based game.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that. That's the kind of game we try to make. Is systems-based games. I love story in game. I love the role of narrative. I love giving players context and meaning to the world other than just swing your sword and kill stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, I think our job as game developers is to give players tools to tell their own story against the backdrop of an epic, narrative cycle. Right?
Sure.
And I love. There's definitely a place for a tight, linear narrative action game, right? With high production values and a beautifully told story and beautifully realized character. I mean, The Last of Us was awesome.
Absolutely.
Right? It's just an awesome game. But to me, what's really compelling and interesting is when you give players tools to tell their own story. And that requires systems-based game development, right? Just like in State of Decay, the zombies have no scripts, right? They don't trigger based on, well, if the player goes into this area or performs this action. Instead, it's all simulated.
Hordes just show up, and you got to deal with it.
No, it's based on the environment. It's literally when you are searching for something in a house, and you're going too fast, and the china cabinet rumbles and falls over. It emits noise and shows it on the little map that you've just made noise, right? And you can see these little dots pop up of all these zombies out there right, who heard it. And we're actually modeling how far does the sound propagate, how does it echo, what at this time of day. Are the zombies hearing range? Because that changes based on the time of day. It looks at what are their grouping mechanics, right? At night, they tend to group together in hordes. During the day, they're more spread apart. And then we model their behavior and their response to that sound based on that. So I love that, right? That to me is what causes emergent gameplay. It's what lets you know that your choices and everything you do matter. And I feel like that game had a lot of that as well. There were deep systems there, and I think they did a good job of kind of blending it in with the narrative.
Not just a little regional pride there, since that's a fellow Seattle developer.
Absolutely. These guys are awesome.
And then how about last question for you. What are you looking forward to besides State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition? How about for this year? We've got a lot of course, many unannounced games yet to come, but a lot of interesting things that are mapped out for the year. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'll shift gears hard here. If I could have any one game that's been announced in my hands today, it would be Fire Emblem 2. The next the next in the Fire Emblem series, I think is what they referred to it as. But oh my God, I love tactical RPGs. Love them. Again, they're systems-based games, right? And that's another great example of.
Is that just because it's the mind of a programmer? You like orderly system-based things?
It could be, and maybe trying to discover them and get to the bottom of how they all work, right? That's super fun to me. I know that the story is going to unfold in the way it's going to unfold, but the mix of characters I have and their abilities and their equipment and how they actually interact on the battlefield, the way you win battles. It's like football, right? You can win in a million different ways.
Yeah.
I love that.
Excellent. Well, Jeff Strain, CEO of Undead Labs, State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition coming out for Xbox One on April
28th.
28th,
Yep.
so mark your calendar, end of April.
And I would add that players who already bought it and loved it, they get a 33% discount on it, and they get a unique character that they get to unlock as well.
And but the street price $30, and that's
Yep.
going to be retail and of course digital.
That's correct.
And then if you do have, how do we know if you get that 33% discount?
You have to have the same Xbox Live account.
Okay, well that's easy enough. I
Yep.
think most people do that. So it's only $20
Yep.
if you already have it on the 360.
That's right.
I on Podcast Unlocked, we have ranted for months about this rash of remasters. I feel like publishers are doing backwards compatibility in the form of charging you $60 for it. But in this case, you're bundling in the 2 expansions that you did.
That's right.
You're bundling in all these updates, fixes.
New mission type, 30 more minutes from our composer Jesper Kidd of new music in
Yeah.
the game. New weapons, new vehicles,
Texture detail, shadow detail.
remastered animations. It's a much refined experience, and there's lots of new toys to play with too.
For $30 or $20 if you already have it
Yep.
from 360. Jeff Strain, thanks very much for
Thank you,
stopping
Ryan.
by, and look for State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition on Xbox One on April 28th. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, let's finish up. A little trivia. You guys get a chance for some points. Marty, you got to get on the board here.
That was a hell of an interview.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a bad
No,
thing or good
that's
thing?
a good thing. Hell of an
All right.
interview. That's a good thing.
Well, you could be like, that was a hell of an interview.
Oh, shit. No.
Like,
I didn't
boy,
do
I
that.
fell asleep in the middle of it.
Wow. No.
It was fun. I want to thank Jeff Strain, that's a lot of time to take out of his day to come in here and listen to my dumb questions. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it. And just be sure to support a cool developer like Jeff and buy State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition if you like cool games. Unlock block time. I actually have the standings in here.
Oh, we're doing standings now?
Oh, yeah.
So
Keeping score.
I wanna,
Sean is in the lead with 2.
Number 1.
Mitch and Destin not here, so you have a chance to pad your lead, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Marty looking to get on the
been here
board.
in like 5 weeks.
Sounds
is
like a
is that
personal
our problem?
Yeah.
Is that our problem, Marty? I don't think so. So,
Make more of an effort, Marty. Come on.
I am going to blow you out of the water with this question.
Resident Evil. It's a Resident Evil question with that game re-releasing
Yeah.
on Xbox One. And the question comes to us from Derek Gitz. His gamer tag DGitz, Gitts. He's from Oregon. That's an interest. That seems like a very Marty-tastic place. Hey, maybe he could go find Jay Allard for us.
Oh, go climb the mountain and find your Sherpa.
Go find him.
Yeah.
And he writes, with Resident Evil releasing this week on Xbox One, how many consoles has the original Resident Evil, including the remasters, been released on in the U.S., including this week's, but not inclling PC? So,
Or the PS1 classics on PS1.
A couple caveats, but so yeah, if you want to try and do the math, just the core versions of original Resident Evil. Go.
So I'm gonna be real with this question.
Do it. All right.
I want Sean to answer first. I don't want him.
Stealing.
Yeah, piggybacking off my knowledge.
So I have absolutely no idea. All of them seem equivalently strong to me, but it seems like 6, 7, and 8 that's too many. So we're gonna go with A, which is 5.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Okay.
You are 100% wrong. Literally
Damn
4 just came out this week.
Really? What?
It came out on both PS3, PS4, 360, and Xbox One.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's 4 to start out with. First off, I think none of these are right. I think the correct answer is 9. But I'm going to choose 8 anyways because there's one caveat. Originally released on PS1. Fun fact, there were 3 editions released on PS1. There was Resident Evil. A year later,
He's not counting those.
I know, but I just wanted people to know.
Oh, you're setting the record straight.
Resident Evil Director's Cut, and then the Resident Evil DualShock Edition all came out within a year and a half of each other. That was weird. Imagine if we were talking about remasterization then.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, PS1. Then it released. There was a Saturn port. Then a remake released on GameCube. The Raccoon City Archives, I think it was called, released on the Wii. Then there's also the DS port. Now, That combined with the 4 that just got released would make it 9. But he said consoles, so maybe he wasn't including handhelds, which is why I'll give that the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
So without the DS, the number's 8. That's my answer.
And the answer is 5.
I mean, what? We can go to Wikipedia right now.
Well, Derek claims that it's 6. But you make a good case. So he says PlayStation 1, GameCube, Wii, and then Xbox One, 360, PS3. Wait, isn't that 7 already? Yeah, that's what he said, 7. And you said 8?
I said 8 because you left out the Saturn.
If the Saturn one is real, and I believe you that it's real.
So now I'm worried maybe it only came out in Japan. I'm gonna type in.
All right, we're gonna stall.
Fact checking.
And in the meantime,
points go to both of us.
No,
right?
wait.
not for you. You definitely don't get a point.
You certainly get no points.
Come on.
And may God have mercy
You
on your soul.
100% get no points.
All right, Resident Evil 1.
This unlock block trivia, not an exact science,
No.
people. So I'm leaving Sean at 2. Either way, I'm going to give Marty a point.
Oh, it's not an exact
Actually,
science,
no, not
and that's why I
necessarily,
don't
so
get points.
It absolutely came out on the Saturn.
All right, so I'm going to give you a point. I'm going
Came
to
out on
take
the Saturn, North America, on August 31st, 1997.
So, Derek, I'm sorry you're wrong. Marty is right. Woo! You're on the board.
Resident Evil is one of the 3 series I know.
So,
at least know with weird encyclopedic knowledge.
Good job. Nevertheless, Derek, we love you for sending in a good question.
I love you. That was a good question.
You still, even though you were wrong, you stumped Sean Finnegan anyway.
Yeah. You stumped
Congrats,
the
I
shark.
guess.
He was more wrong than you were.
Yeah.
You stumped the shark.
But
just
only
like,
by one.
Just like
title.
just like Jill Valentine stumped the shark boss in Resident Evil 1.
Chomp, 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 chomp. So Derek wins. He won himself a copy of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, courtesy of many of you, the listeners, for kindly donating them from your holiday bundles. So thank you guys so much for sending in
his
video
catchphrase
games.
should be, get some.
He needs to get that on his license plate.
He needs to get it on his license plate.
GITSOME.
Get some?
It's 7 letters. It fits. So
some.
up in Oregon, we should just buy it and then make him. It's like cyber squatting.
Extortion? Yeah.
Yeah, cyber. Yeah. Domain names back in the day.
That's horrible.
So there was some dude that owned McDonald's.com
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with McDonald's.
Yeah.
I think he got a bunch of money.
Our own Justin
And then they made it
Davis-
against the law.
Our own Justin Davis, I think, owned Advance Wars. Like that. Remember the GTA?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Domain squatting.
What a great
Interesting.
idea.
I just squat in abandoned buildings.
The real squatting.
Yeah. OG
Marty
squatting.
gets drunk a lot.
he just gets lost on the way home.
I'm gonna squat in this building and take it.
At least I knew I was going to squat.
Yeah,
I don't mean squatting as in taking a dump. I just mean squatting as in living there illegally.
taking the dump's funnier, though. Anyway, if you'd like a chance at a free Xbox video game, we needed some good questions. Send them in. Unlocked@ign.com. Include the question. 4 multiple choice answers. Please note the correct one in your email. And that's it. You will get a chance to win each and every week here on this show. Let's go home, shall we? It's been just about 2.5. Actually, yeah, we're 2.5 hour show this week. Might be our longest ever.
Whoa.
Possibly. It's definitely in the top 5.
Just keep it going.
We're going
Set
another
the
round.
record.
What do we think the news for next week's going to be?
I need some water.
The Xbox is back up to 400.
Oh God, no! Yeah, we're not going off the air until the 350 becomes permanent. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Everybody always does. We love you for it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, my goal is to grow the show to new heights this year, listenership wise. So
That's a
we're
good
very
goal.
lucky. We have a lot of awesome listeners.
So if you enjoy it, share it with your friends.
Absolutely.
Post it on
Especially-
your Facebook.
Put it on Dig.
We got
yeah.
through the efforts of Sean Finnegan and our video team, we now have the full video episodes, which some of you have been so kindly asking for so long.
So if you've been asking for it, you better be watching these.
That's true.
Yeah.
All the way through until the
All
very
the way
last minute,
Yeah.
because we can tell.
Because there's
That is-
secrets at the end.
That's true.
We give one scoop at the end of every episode.
Yeah. Scoop of ice cream.
Oh, delicious.
Yum.
Yeah.
Sean Finnegan, you got anything you want to plug? Anything you're up to on IGN that we should be watching?
I am, but I can't talk about that.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Mysteries. I didn't
Yes.
know that.
We'll just follow you on Twitter at IMFinnegan.
That's right.
Marty Sleva, how about
Yeah.
you? Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. I'm going to be here for a while.
Good.
I'm going to be on probably every episode until PAX East.
Unless I fire you before then.
That would be rough. Wait, fire me from the show? Technically, you can't fire me from IGN. You could tell me I can't come to the show anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you could just like close the door and like put a chair in front of it every time.
No Marty's allowed.
We're allowed to have one. There's one Marty O'Donnell's in here. I'm working on the.
I would 100% replace you with Marty O'Donnell if I had the chance.
That'd be fine. That'd be totally fine. I'm working on the Majora's Mask 3DS review. That's a big project right now. And then the secret stuff I was on assignment for last week will be going up the next few weeks. We'll be able to talk about that.
Nice.
Once it goes up.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah.
I'm reviewing Grim Fandango Remastered. That'll be up next week. It's not for Xbox, sadly, but PC or PS4. Mm-hmm. And I played it when it first came out in fall of 1998 because I've played all of Tim Schafer's games, and I was a huge huge LucasArts fan back then. And I haven't played it since.
That's
and
amazing.
I'll bet I've forgotten every single puzzle.
Yeah. Over 15 years.
16 years. It's been a long time. So look for that review next week. We've got ongoing coverage of all the Windows 10 event, all the HoloLens stuff, all that going on IGN. And then we're still actually working on the this month's IGN First is Hot Games of 2015, where I reached out to a bunch of targeted a bunch of cool games. And got something new and exclusive and fun from each of them. It's not
you've had
we're not
map reveals, you've had dev commentaries.
Yeah, we're not regurgitating anything. We got something new for everything. And then let's see. I don't know. Do I want to say? I guess I shouldn't say it just in case. Let's just say the final week, which is next week, the last week of the month. That's kind of when all the biggest, coolest ones are happening.
I'm excited.
Other than maybe like the Halo map reveals at the beginning, but there's some significant ones happening at the end. Like 2 games that I would say are minimum AAA, possibly like quadruple A.
I didn't realize that was a real thing.
I don't think it is. I think I just made
You heard
that
it here
up,
first.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
a new tier of gaming.
So spotlight on a new cool game. It's not every day, but we've got more. There's like 5 more, I think, the rest of the month. So stay tuned for that. You won't miss it on the front page of ign.com. And
And we'll probably be able to find out in the coming weeks why Mitch and Destin were in here.
That's true, too.
They were both doing cool things.
Both doing separate cool things.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we can follow you at McBiggity, 2 G's, 2 T's.
Yes. I tweet about things. And I've made 2
and
jokes.
stuffs.
A lot of bar references.
Quips, gips,
Puns.
gits, trivias, factotum. Chewy, get us out of here.
You can follow me at DMC_Ryan. A lot of Xbox news, a lot of video game things, some sports, some dog pictures thrown in to just balance.
Pictures of pizza.
That happens a lot. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, most of you get the show on iTunes, but again, now we are full episodes on YouTube and IGN.com. Encourage you to watch our talking heads, or maybe you like to just put it on in the background, whatever it is you want to do. But please help us justify the effort of putting up the full video episodes by watching them. Or
just put them on in the background and leave the house.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Put it on repeat.
Put it on for your cat while
This
you're
is
at
why
work.
tabs were invented in your browser.
That's
just
true.
Yeah.
That is true. So for Sean Finnegan, Marty Sleva, my name is Ryan McCaffrey. This was Podcast Unlocked, episode 179. The countdown to episode 200 begins next week. Yes.
I don't know what that was. I don't know. I'm ripping paper.
And also, huge thanks, seriously, to Jeff Strain for taking huge time out of his day. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I had a really good time conducting that interview. That's one of my favorite things to do that I get to do here at IGN. So hope you liked it, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.